Chapter 673. Nissi City had never been as lively as it had been in the past few days. 3 days ago, when the new flyer's fleet arrived at Nissi City's harbor that had just been built 2 months ago and anchored there, the entire Nissi City was stirred. Countless people came to the harbor to see the 3 magic boats that had come from the Principality of Constantine that was over 2,000 kilometers away. Seeing the 3 incomparably large magic boats that were like small mountains on the shore, everyone couldn't help gasping in surprise. Such a large ship, it really surpassed everyone's imaginations. Not to mention that these 3 ships were completely made of steel, there wasn't any wood on the outside at all. When everyone saw these 3 ships, other than being shocked, there were many questions in their hearts. A ship that was completely made of steel, the weight of this ship was definitely shocking. Then for such a heavy ship, how could it float on the sea and even move at such a high speed? The Principality of Constantine was close to 2,000 kilometers away from here, so it was definitely over 2,000 kilometers on the sea. It might even be close to 3,000 kilometers. These 3 ships had set off from the Principality of Constantine over 20 days ago, so calculating it, it was equal to traveling over 100 kilometers on the sea each day. Although this speed wasn't that fast, with how big these 3 ships were, it was already exaggerated that they could travel on the sea. Not to mention traveling this far for over 20 days, it was simply a miracle. The onlookers were even more shocked when they saw with their own eyes how the sailors were constantly moving the goods from the 3 ships. Although from the huge appearance of these 3 ships, it could be inferred that the cargo capacity of these 3 ships must be very exaggerated, but when the people saw with their own eyes that the sailors did not stop at all and had not finished moving the cargo of these 3 ships for 3 days, they still felt that it was inconceivable. Although it was only 3 ships, based on this situation, the cargo on these 3 ships was equivalent to over 100. No, it was equivalent to over 1,000 horse carriages transporting cargo at the same time. It was no wonder New Flyer had invested several million gold coins to build this harbor with Nissi City. To be able to transport such a terrifying amount of cargo at once, there was no doubt that it saved New Flyer a large amount of manpower, resources, and time. When they saw the terrifying cargo capacity of these 3 magic boats, there were many people who had ideas. "Captain Narvel, good morning." A fat middle-aged man came out of a magic sedan with a smile, waving his hand at Narvel, who was supervising the sailors at the harbor. Narvel turned to look and also put on a smile. "Good morning, President Randolph." President Randolph was the president of a company that dealt in spices and wood in Nissi City. Ever since he accompanied the new city lord of Nissi City, Count Company, to the ceremony to welcome the arrival of the new flyer fleet, he would come every day for the past 3 days to chat with Narvel. "Captain Narvel, how long will it take to finish unloading these goods?" President Randolph looked at the busy sailors on and off the 3 ships and asked. "If we don't delay, the fastest would be today, the latest would be tomorrow," Narvel replied. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "What? How can I help you, President Randolph?" Chairman Randolph laughed. "How could I have any advice? I just have some things to discuss with Captain Narvel. I wonder if Captain Narvel will have the honor of having a meal with me at noon?" "It's here." Narvel secretly laughed in his heart, but his expression was serious as he shook his head. "I'm afraid I can only apologize. Before we set off, Sir Chairman gave strict orders that no one in the fleet was allowed to attend any private banquets. But at the Lord City Lord's banquet 3 days ago, that was me attending in the name of the new flyer, representing Sir Chairman. Moreover, the Lord City Lord didn't invite me in his name, rather he represented the kingdom of Roar and Nissi City," Narvel said with a serious look. Seeing Narvel's serious expression, it didn't seem like he was joking, so Chairman Randolph felt a bit awkward. He wanted to use the banquet to discuss some things with Narvel, but now that Narvel was acting like he didn't care, it really was unexpected. Narvel suddenly revealed a smile. Chairman Randolph, Sir Chairman said before leaving that we can't eat, but there are some things that can be discussed. Chairman Randolph's eyes lit up. He looked around before pulling Narvel aside. Narvel understood and followed him to a dark area covered by the morning sunship. Chairman Randolph was silent for a while before saying, "Captain Narvel, after you go back this time, I think you will come back after a while, right?" "Of course." Narvel nodded. "The Kingdom of Roar has ordered a lot of goods from our new flyer that need to be delivered. Our mission is still very important." "Then, is it possible?" "I'm saying it's possible, that when you are transporting the goods from your new flyer, there will be some other goods?" Chairman Randolph asked carefully. Narvel looked at Chairman Randolph with a smile that wasn't a smile. "I can't decide that, it will be up to Sir Chairman." Seeing that Narvel didn't say anything, Chairman Randolph relaxed and smiled. "Of course, this will be up to Chairman Sue to decide. But Captain Narvel, when you see Chairman Sue, can you tell him that I hope that when your fleet comes to Nisi City, you can help me transport a batch of goods from the Principality of Constantine?" "I can help you mention this to Sir Chairman, but I can't guarantee that Sir Chairman will agree." Chairman Randolph nodded. No problem, as long as you can help me pass on the message. But Captain Narvel, when you pass on the message, I hope that you can add one more thing. Just say that as long as Chairman Sue agrees, I'm willing to pay the transportation fee and guarantee that Chairman Sue will be satisfied. What do you think?" Narvel couldn't help but laugh, thinking that Sir Chairman was truly a god. Before setting off, Sue had specially told Narvel about this situation and told him how to deal with it. Thus, Narvel pretended to think about it. After pondering for a while, he reluctantly nodded his head. I can pass on the message to the chairman. But Chairman Randolph, if you choose another method, I think Sir Chairman will have a higher chance of agreeing to your request." Chairman Randolph immediately understood the meaning behind Narvel's words and quickly said, "Please tell me, Captain Narvel." Narvel coughed and looked around before lowering his voice. "Chairman Randolph, you should know that our new flyer mainly manufactures magic machines. To manufacture magic machines, we need large amounts of iron ores as well as other random ores. But you should know that the Principality of Constantine is a small place with limited resources, so Sir Chairman hopes to buy ores from other places." Chairman Randolph was the chairman of a company. How could he not understand the meaning behind Narvel's words? He laughed and said, "That's simple. Although I'm a small character in Nisi City, it's not a problem to get some ores." After saying this, Chairman Randolph suddenly had an idea and slightly knit his brows. "But Chairman Narvel, with your new flyer's close relationship with our Kingdom of Roar, if you really need large amounts of ores, I think Chairman Sue can directly propose to King Tarek to buy from our Kingdom of Roar. Why do you need to use this method?" Narvel sighed. "Sir Chairman has already proposed this to His Majesty King Tarek and received His Majesty King Tarek's approval. I'm not afraid to reveal a secret to you, but King Tarek has already reached an agreement with our company to sell the rights to 5 ores in the Kingdom of Roar. But Sir Chairman still feels that it's not enough, so he wants to use other methods to get more. Do you understand?" Chairman Randolph thought for a while and his brows gradually relaxed. Since King Tarek was willing to sign an agreement with the new flyer to sell the ores in the kingdom, it meant that His Majesty wouldn't restrict this kind of transaction. Moreover, the Kingdom of Roar had never restricted this kind of business, so even if he privately made a deal with the new flyer, there shouldn't be any problems. Of course, this matter needed to be a bit more cautious, so Chairman Randolph didn't immediately agree. He told Narvel that he would seriously consider it and try to give Narvel a clear answer in a few days. This result was within Narvel's expectations. Anyway, he had come to Nisi City this time to explore and contact some merchants in Nisi City and the Kingdom of Roar, revealing his intentions. With the shock brought by the 3 giant magic boats of the new flyer, he believed that there would be many people who would be moved by this like Chairman Randolph. But to be honest, Narvel didn't understand why Sir Chairman wanted ores this much. Although the Principality of Constantine wasn't rich in ores because of the limited area, it was enough to satisfy the needs of the new flyer, and there was even a large surplus. But the chairman didn't seem to be satisfied at all. Not only did he ask Narvel to explore every island that was large enough, he also told him to put on a show like this when he reached Nisi City. However, other than Thunderbolt Island, there weren't many islands along the way, and there weren't many ores on them. I don't know if Sir Chairman will be disappointed after I report this to him. Narvel shook his head and gave a sigh. After seeing Chairman Randolph get into the magic sedan and leave the harbor, he came out of the shadows. When he was about to turn back to instruct the sailors to work harder, he suddenly saw a very familiar magic sedan quickly coming out of the harbor. This pure white magic sedan stopped beside the morning sun, and when the door opened, it revealed Su Yi's tall figure. Narvel was surprised. When he was about to go over, he found that the door on the other side opened and a little girl who was around 10 years old came out. Narvel was stunned. Sir Chairman, when did he have such an old, illegitimate daughter? Chapter 674. After being stunned for a while, Narvel finally reacted and quickly ran to Su Yi's side. Sir Chairman, why are you here? Su Yi smiled at him. I had something to do in the kingdom of Ruhr, it's not that far from here. I received news that your fleet had arrived, so I came to take a look. After saying this, he turned to the 3 magic boats and asked, How is it? Was the trip smooth? Narvel laughed. With the goddess of luck's care, although there were some small problems along the way, it was very smooth overall. Moreover, Narvel gave a cough and lowered his voice. Sir Guild Leader, a few days ago, we discovered a very valuable island in the open sea less than 200 kilometers away from here. Very valuable? Seeing Narvel's expression, Su Yi instantly understood. Then what is the situation on the island now? Narvel made a reassuring gesture. There's basically no problem. I'll report the specific situation to you later. Su Yi nodded. I'm assured in the things you do, but I don't have time to take care of this matter right now. You take care of it first and report the details to me after we return to the Principality of Constantine. This. Narvel thought about it and felt that the situation on Thunderbolt Island wasn't urgent, so he wasn't in a rush to report to Su Yi, so he gave up. But there was another matter that he had to tell Su Yi as soon as possible. Hearing Narvel talk about the matter that Chairman Randolph had come to discuss, Su Yi revealed a faint smile. He patted Narvel's shoulder and praised, You've done very well. Tell Chairman Randolph that our new flyer can consider his request to transport the goods. As for the specifics, I hope that he can personally come to the Principality of Constantine to make a decision. It's not good to make a rash decision now. As for the minerals, it's fine as long as he does his best, there's no need to force him. Narvel was a bit surprised. Sir President had clearly placed great importance on this matter before he set off, so why did he put on an indifferent expression now? Seeing the doubt in Narvel's heart, Su Yi smiled and explained, There are some changes in the cooperation with the Kingdom of Ruhr. If nothing unexpected happens, our company will be able to obtain a very high amount of mineral resources from the Kingdom of Ruhr, so we don't need to rush the private transactions. Of course, I don't mean that we don't need to do these things, but we need to continue doing them. Because our Chamber of Commerce's demand for mineral resources is endless. Do you understand what I mean? Understood. Narvel nodded his head and then asked curiously, Sir Chairman, is it because the Kingdom of Ruhr needs something from our company that they are willing to give in? More or less. Su Yi smiled. This reason was related to the cooperation with the Azhara tribe, but it wasn't convenient to reveal it to Narvel now. Seeing that Su Yi didn't say anything, Narvel tactfully didn't continue asking. There wasn't anything urgent to report, so Narvel's eyes couldn't help but look at the little girl who had run under the morning sun without him noticing. She looked up and was sizing up the morning sun with interest. "Sir Chairman, this little girl is—" "She's called Lumi, can't you tell who she is?" Sui asked with a smile. Narvel shook his head and thought that he wasn't a god, so how could he tell who this little girl was from her appearance? But from Sir Chairman's tone, he could guess that this little girl's identity wasn't normal. However, judging from her attire and temperament, she didn't look like a child from a noble family. Moreover, with Sir Chairman's current position in the Kingdom of Ruhr, the only person he would think of as having an extraordinary identity would be the Princess of the Kingdom of Ruhr, right? But no matter how he looked at it, this little girl with disheveled hair and clothes of mixed colors couldn't be related to the princess at all. Seeing that Narvel didn't recognize Lumi, Sui couldn't help feeling a bit surprised. Then he relaxed. The halflings had disappeared from the continent for too long. Even the records of the halflings in the various documents had almost turned into pure legends. So in everyone's mind, the halflings had already disappeared from the continent. Moreover, the halflings looked very similar to human children. There were very few differences. If it wasn't for the fact that Sui was very interested in the halflings' knowledge of magic machines, so he had read through a large amount of documents, as well as seeing Lumi with a group of elves beside her, it would have been very hard for him to recognize that Lumi was a halfling of legends. When Sui was thinking about whether he should use this chance to reveal Lumi's identity, Lumi suddenly ran over and loudly said to Sui with an excited look, "Hey, Sui, this ship is simply great. How did you make it?" Sui revealed a smile. "This isn't something that I could make alone, it was made by the combined strength of countless people in our new flyer. How about it, Lumi? After seeing this magic boat, do you feel that your idea of spending 5,000 gold coins to make a ship that can go out to sea is a joke?" Lumi wrinkled her small nose and snorted softly. She muttered in a low voice, "I haven't come out for a long time. I didn't know you humans had reached such a high level in this aspect." She immediately became excited. Then she became excited. "Hey, Sui, these 3 ships are this strong, could it be that they can't go out to sea? You must be lying to me." Sui gave a shrug. "Why would I lie to you? Although in theory these 3 magic boats can go out to sea, the dangers of going out to sea far surpass your imagination. You can ask Narvel if you don't believe me." Seeing Sui point at him, Narvel was surprised. When he heard the conversation between Sui and Lumi, his heart was filled with doubt. This little girl named Lumi actually dared to call Sir Chairman by his name. This meant that her identity wasn't small. But what did this little girl say after that? The current level of you humans in this aspect. What did she mean by you humans? Could it be that she wasn't a human? While he was considering the meaning of these words, Lumi had already jumped in front of Narvel. She looked up at him and asked, "Hey, you're called Narvel, right? Tell me, is going out to sea really as dangerous as Sui said?" Seeing Sui running over, Narvel immediately understood. He gave a cough and nodded before replying with a serious look, "Yes, Lumi. Young miss. Going out to sea on the endless sea, the dangers are very terrifying, far surpassing your imagination." Seeing Lumi's doubtful look, Narvel raised his voice, "Don't look at me with such doubtful eyes. These 3 ships set off from the Principality of Constantine and traveled over 2,000 kilometers on the sea to get here. I am the commander of these 3 ships, so I know the dangers better than anyone." Lumi muttered before lowering her head to think. When she looked up again, she seemed a bit dejected as she turned to Sui and said with a sigh, "Then I have to obediently wait a few years?" Sui gave a slight nod, "Yes. Didn't you say it yourself, you've already waited for 100 years, there's no problem waiting another 5 or 10 years, right?" Lumi was silent for a bit before suddenly clapping her hands and giving a loud sound. "Alright, let's do it like we agreed on before." After saying this, she turned to look at the unfolding wings, the morning sun, and the goddess of victory Iris, as her eyes filled with hope and joy. No matter what, being able to see these 3 giant magic boats has already surpassed my expectations. I believe that as long as you're willing to help me, in just a few years, I'll be able to make even more powerful magic boats. Let's be clear, it's not me helping you, it's you helping us, Sui said with a smile. Lumi, you are now a special researcher of our company's Academy of Magic. You are already an employee of our company, so you have to properly work for me. Lumi waved her hand. No matter who helps who, it's fine as long as we can make a powerful magic boat in the end. As long as I can accomplish my dream, I'll do anything you want me to. Sui revealed a faint smile. Relax, developing a stronger magic boat is one of the goals of our company. But Lumi, we've already agreed that although your main research direction is the magic boat, you also need to work on other aspects. I know. You can be assured, we halflings keep our promises, we won't be as sly as you humans. Sui couldn't help smiling. When he was about to say something, Narvel on the side couldn't help shouting out. Halfling? Oh my god! You're actually a halfling! Oh, this is simply too unbelievable! Sir Chairman, is this true? There's actually a halfling in front of me? This must be an illusion. This is too unbelievable. Sui looked at Narvel, who was so shocked that he couldn't even speak properly. He thought that although the halflings were about to become legendary creatures, they shouldn't be able to make Narvel lose his composure like this, right? Before Sui could say anything, Lumi had already put her hands at her waist and looked up at Narvel as she shouted, Hey, human, what's wrong with being a halfling? Why do you find this unbelievable? Could it be that I'm not a living halfling? Narvel nodded with a dazed look. Yes, you should be a halfling. But haven't halflings disappeared from the continent a long time ago? Sui patted Narvel's shoulder with a smile. All right, there are exceptions to everything. Didn't the elves say that they had disappeared from the Signs continent? But now that you're in the company, don't you have contact with the elves all day? There are even 2 elven researchers on the goddess of victory Iris. Although halflings are rarer than elves, you don't need to be this exaggerated, right? Narvel opened his mouth. Sir Chairman had said it so casually, but halflings had actually reappeared on the Signs. This was a super shocking piece of news that no one could imagine, all right. Seeing Narvel's look of disbelief, Sui felt a bit of a headache. When he brought Agnes to Banta City to appear in public a few years ago, it had created an unimaginable and terrifying sensation. Even the New Flyer Company's normal work had been seriously affected for a long time because of the crowd surrounding Agnes. If he brought Lumi back now and announced it to everyone, based on Narvel's reaction, the effect would be several times stronger than Agnes. Seeing Lumi, who was still dissatisfied with Narvel's exaggerated reaction and angrily puffing out her cheeks, Sui gave a bitter laugh in his heart. To cooperate with other races, this was one of the consequences that had to be borne. Chapter 675. Sui and New Flyer had to bear the consequences of cooperating with other races, and it wasn't just the sensational effect. It was different from the sensational advertising effect that would increase the fame of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. There were many other effects that could easily cause damage to the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. For example, one of the problems that had always plagued New Flyer was that there were too many other races employed by the company. Even though this gave the company a huge advantage that other companies couldn't compare to, it also greatly increased the difficulty of management. Even among humans, there were different groups, not to mention that even their races were not the same. This problem wasn't obvious when New Flyer wasn't particularly large, but now that New Flyer had more than 300 magic machine factories of various types under its control, the total number of employees under its name had exceeded a shocking 100,000. Both human and other race employees had increased substantially, and this problem was becoming more and more serious by the day. Of the 100,000 employees of New Flyer, humans still made up the absolute majority. There were more than 80,000 people in total. As for the other races, there were more than 8,000 dwarves, 15,000 orcs, and only 3,000 elves. Moreover, most of them weren't actually under New Flyer's jurisdiction. Therefore, in terms of numbers, the human employees completely crushed the other race employees. However, only a small portion of the elven employees were directly employed by New Flyer, so it was negligible. The dwarven employees, on the other hand, occupied a large number of skilled workers and even mechanical engineers due to their talent in forging and smelting. Their status was much higher than most human employees. Because of Su Yi's high standards for skills, these dwarven employees had always been given preferential treatment in New Flyer. Even though the dwarves were honest and easy to get along with, this special treatment made many human employees feel that it was unfair and dissatisfied. Dissatisfaction would naturally erupt after a long time. Thus, when Su Yi returned to the Principality of Constantine from the Kingdom of Ruhr, he unexpectedly encountered something unexpected. There was actually a worker strike within New Flyer. Listening to Kennard's report, Su Yi's expression was very strange. He wasn't angry. Instead, he felt that this matter was truly too absurd. It was completely unexpected. He was treating his workers much better than any other company in Signs, yet they still wanted to go on strike? It had to be known that before the New Flyer appeared, the highest salary the other companies could get was just a few gold coins. After the appearance of the New Flyer, with the push of Su Yi, the wages of the various companies in Banta City kept rising. Now it was close to 20 gold coins on average. Such a month's income was almost equivalent to an entire year's income of a commoner family that had helped him in the past. How could they still be dissatisfied? Do they still want to go on strike in the name of better treatment? Su Yi wasn't really angry. He just felt that it was a bit inconceivable. He didn't even have the thought of being angry. Before this, Su Yi had never heard of any company's workers going on a large-scale strike. They didn't even dare cause trouble. This was because it wasn't easy to get a job in a company, so everyone cherished it. But now, perhaps it was because the magic machine industry driven by the New Flyer had given people too many jobs, allowing them to easily obtain good jobs, so they didn't cherish it like before. Even if they didn't work in the New Flyer, there were many other companies in the magic machine industry that needed large amounts of workers. The workers that came out of the New Flyer were all skilled and had rich work experience. They also had the skills from the New Flyer, so they were very welcomed by other companies. These workers didn't need to worry about going back at all. So when Su Yi calmed down to think about it, he felt that this matter was inevitable and there was nothing to be surprised about. In the end, people's greed would never be satisfied. When there was a chance people would choose better conditions, this was understandable. And as the president of the New Flyer, it was meaningless to discuss morals and conscience in front of tens of thousands of people. Su Yi couldn't help but chuckle when he took a look at the manifesto that claimed to be the leader of the strike from Kennard's hand. This declaration claimed that the human employees of the Chamber of Commerce would be treated at the same level as the other alien races in the Chamber of Commerce, and that the Chamber of Commerce would treat humans and other alien races fairly. It seemed reasonable, but in fact it was just greed. Kennard, how do you plan to deal with this? Su Yi suddenly asked. Kennard knew that Su Yi was using this opportunity to test him. He pondered for a moment and replied, I originally planned to meet this worker leader and have a talk with him. We'll discuss the conditions. If we can reach an agreement, then it's fine. If we can't reach an agreement, then we'll consider the next step. Su Yi shook his head. That's not good. Kennard wasn't surprised and asked in return, What's not good? First, our company doesn't have enough production capacity. If we negotiate with these workers, it will definitely drag on and affect production. I can do my best to reduce the negotiation time. That's exactly what the workers want. We'll definitely be forced to agree to some unreasonable conditions. But if we don't agree, we can't afford to drag it out more than the workers, Su Yi said. Secondly, if there's a first negotiation with the workers, there will be a second. It'll only get harder and harder to deal with in the future. Then, Sir President, you don't want to negotiate with the workers? But we can't afford to drag it out. Kennard frowned. Sue-Yi knew very well that with Kennard's ability, he definitely had a way to deal with it. But his decision this time was completely different from Kennard's, so he directly rejected Kennard's plan. If we can't afford to drag it out, then let's not drag it out. Sue-Yi looked at the declaration in his hand and smiled. He waved his hand and made a chopping gesture. All the workers who are participating in the strike are dismissed. Kennard looked at Sue-Yi in shock. He almost couldn't believe his ears. Sir President, there are more than 18,000 workers who are participating in the strike. You want to dismiss them all? Then our company's production won't just be affected, it might even be completely paralyzed. If we do this, we will lose at least 3 million gold coins. Hearing the number 3 million gold coins, Sue-Yi couldn't help but laugh. Hey Kennard, you've actually considered this plan, right? Otherwise, how could you come up with this number? Kennard was startled. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, I just made an assessment out of caution. I never really thought of doing this. Looking at the calm expression on Sue-Yi's face, based on his many years of experience working with Sue-Yi, Kennard judged that Sue-Yi had clearly made up his mind. But Sue-Yi's method was too shocking. Even if Kennard never really opposed Sue-Yi's decision, he still couldn't help but advise, Sir President, I think we should be a little more careful, right? We don't need to be so intense. If you want to punish some of the workers who are participating in the strike as a warning to others, we can only target the workers who are leading the strike. Why do we need to target all the workers? You have to know that many of the workers were simply bewitched to participate in the strike. They might not even know what they want to do. They don't know what they want to do? Sue-Yi sneered. We're all adults, what kind of joke is this? Okay, I've already made up my mind. We'll do this. Kennard, you're the main person in charge of this. I'll leave the specifics to you. Kennard bitterly took the declaration from Sue-Yi. He looked at the name of the worker leader and wanted to bite this guy to death. Did this guy really think he was some sort of big shot? He actually dares to anger the president. Although the president rarely interfered with the internal affairs of the Chamber of Commerce in the past 2 years, he had absolute supreme authority in New Flyer. As long as he made a decision, even Kennard, the CEO, couldn't possibly oppose it. However, at the thought of having to fire over 18,000 workers all at once, Kennard instantly felt an immense headache. Seeing the pained expression on Kennard's face, Sue-Yi revealed a faint smile. He patted Kennard's shoulder and pretended to comfort him. Okay, Kennard, don't worry, I'm not really angry. I just think that it's better to deal with the pain quickly. This strike reminded me that the various problems within the Chamber of Commerce have accumulated to a certain degree. We really do need a thorough reform. The leader of the strike is right. The Chamber of Commerce has always treated different races differently. It's no wonder they feel it's unfair. Kennard frowned and thought for a bit before asking, then, Sir President, what do you plan to do? It's very simple. First, we'll kick out this group of people whose hearts have already flown away. Then, we'll reclassify the remaining employees. Although we previously set some ranks between the Academy of Magic and the normal workers, it was very crude. For example, the workers were ranked based on their years of service. This isn't fair. Now I'm asking for a simultaneous evaluation of skills plus hours worked to separate the employees into different grades. The better their skills, the longer they've worked for the Chamber of Commerce, the higher their rank, and the better the treatment they receive. Kennard thought for a bit before nodding. I actually had this idea a long time ago. It's just that the Chamber of Commerce has been developing too quickly and the number of employees has been increasing too quickly. I haven't had the time to make a reform. That's why I said that it's good to take this opportunity to make a large-scale reform. Sui smiled. If it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have had an excuse to make such a large-scale reform. Didn't those workers say that the treatment of the dwarves is too good and unfair? That's good. If you want to receive the same treatment as the dwarves, then you have to work as hard as the dwarves. If you don't like it, then it's very simple. Just leave our new flyer. But if you want to come back after leaving, you'll have to start from scratch. Seeing Su Yi's gloating smile, Kennard shook his head slightly. The president kept saying that he wasn't angry, but from his expression, it was clear that he was angry. Chapter 676. When news of New Flyer's mass layoffs spread, it immediately shocked everyone in the nearby countries. Although it was normal for companies to fire workers that they didn't need, for the Frestec Chamber of Commerce to fire 18,000 workers at once, this was something that had never happened before. Many people's first reaction when they heard this news was that New Flyer was done for. Because, under normal circumstances, a company would only engage in mass layoffs when they were in a declining state. When a company was on the rise, they would only recruit a large number of employees to ensure that their business continued to grow. But before this, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had been openly recruiting workers. Even half a month ago, New Flyer was still using all its channels to recruit employees in the Principality of Constantine and the surrounding countries. So why did they suddenly fire so many employees in one go? Was it just because of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's strike? If they fired so many employees just because they went on strike, that would be too strict. For a while, because of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's strike and large-scale layoffs, the people of the surrounding countries began to fiercely discuss this matter. The various newspapers would publish articles discussing this matter every day, as well as reporting on the following developments. The Frestec Chamber of Commerce was the company that attracted the most attention in the surrounding countries. There was no other company that could compare. Now that these two things had happened, they had become the focus of everyone's attention. However, for different people, the focus was different. Most ordinary people were just watching the show, but those who had business dealings with New Flyer were more concerned about the impact these two events would have on New Flyer. In particular, those who had placed orders with New Flyer were extremely worried. New Flyer had always been lacking in production capacity. Now that they had fired more than 18,000 employees, it would inevitably greatly affect their normal production, and their production capacity would be even lower. The facts were just as they expected. After the mass layoffs, New Flyer immediately sent an apology letter to all the customers who had placed orders. They said that because of the recent changes in the company, production would be affected, and the time to complete the orders would be pushed back. The customers who received this letter could only helplessly accept it. There was nothing they could do. Even though there were companies that produced large amounts of magic machines in the surrounding countries, apart from household magic machines, only New Flyer could produce the rest of the magic machines. They simply couldn't find another company to replace them. Even in the field of household magic machines, the Frestec brand was the highest-grade household magic machine for humans. There wasn't anything that could compare to it. When people bought household magic machines, they recognized Xinfei's brand and wouldn't buy anything else. So even though New Flyer's production was affected and orders were delayed, most people still patiently waited for New Flyer to recover and didn't consider other brands of household magic machines. Of course, there were still a small number of people who would consider buying other brands of household magic machines because they urgently needed them. So after these two large matters happened at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, the household magic machine sales of the other brands all increased to different degrees. Among these other brands of household magic machines, there were a few brands whose performance and quality were considered quite good after years of development. Even if they still couldn't compare to Xinfei's household magic machines, they had the advantage of being cheaper than Xinfei's household magic machines. Because of this, they gained the recognition of many people. In conclusion, the two events in New Flyer had a huge impact on New Flyer, but it was a very good opportunity for the other companies that produced magic machines. Moreover, for the other magic machine companies, compared to the temporary increase in sales, most of the companies were more focused on the 18,000 workers fired by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. These workers had worked in New Flyer for at least a year and were skilled workers. The fact that they could establish themselves in New Flyer proved that they had sufficient skills and experience. To the other companies, every one of them was a rare talent. Therefore, after the news of New Flyer's dismissal of the 18,000 workers spread, countless people swarmed into the Principality of Constantine to find the workers who had been fired by New Flyer and snatch them away. In just half a month, the 18,000 workers that had been fired by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had all found jobs. Because when the Frestec Chamber of Commerce fired these workers, they gave each worker a minimum of 50 gold coins as compensation, so these workers didn't suffer any material losses. They smoothly went from being workers of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce to being workers of other companies. Moreover, because of the competition between the companies, when the workers who had been fired entered other companies, their wages were even higher than the wages they received at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Compared to when they were at New Flyer, perhaps it was even more advantageous. For a while, there were many New Flyer workers who weren't on the list of fired workers that had their hearts moved because of this. "Hey Archie, you really won't consider it?" A youth with a waxy yellow face stopped Archie, who had just left home, and asked this with an expectant look. "The Domino Chamber of Commerce's monthly wage is much higher than New Flyer's. They're giving me 25 gold coins a month. You've already passed the second-level welder certificate, so if you go with me, you'll definitely get more than me. You might even get 30 gold coins." Archie knit his brows and impatiently waved his hand as he said with a cold snort, "I'm not going." "Luther, you can go if you want, don't keep pulling me along." "Do you really think I don't know? The Domino Chamber of Commerce has given you a condition in private. As long as you pull in a single person for their company, they'll give you 10 gold coins. Isn't that right?" The youth called Luther immediately revealed an aggrieved appearance as he loudly shouted, "The Domino Chamber of Commerce has indeed said this, but God above, Archie, I want you to go because you're my friend and I hope you can be with me. If you're willing to come, I'll give you the 10 gold coins the Domino Chamber of Commerce gave me and I won't keep a single copper coin. How about it? Isn't this enough to show my sincerity?" "Then I won't go," Archie coldly said. "I'm doing very well at New Flyer, I've never thought of going to another company. As for you, Luther, since you treat me as a friend, then I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't look at how you can get a higher monthly wage at the Domino Chamber of Commerce, but have you thought about what will happen in the future? Can the Domino Chamber of Commerce compare to New Flyer? Can you get the same benefits at the Domino Chamber of Commerce as you do at New Flyer? Can you even get a pension when you're old and can't move anymore?" Luther curled his lips. "Che, you think you can get it by staying at New Flyer? Don't look at how good New Flyer sounds. Who knows how long New Flyer will last? It might even close down tomorrow." Archie knit his brows and angrily said, "Luther, don't think that you can curse New Flyer as you wish just because you left it. I know that you're holding a grudge because you were fired by New Flyer, but I've advised you before to not follow those fellows to cause trouble. Now that you've been fired by New Flyer because of your own trouble, could it be that you're blaming others?" Luther's neck stiffened as he shouted with a straight face, "So what if I want a better treatment? Can't I do that? Why can those dwarves have such good treatment and we human workers can't? If it was up to me, it's Sir Chairman being biased. He protects the other races in the company, but he doesn't care about us human workers. Can he still be considered human?" Seeing Luther's agitated appearance, Archie calmed down. Narrowing his eyes to look at Luther for a while, Archie calmly continued, "Luther, in your magic air conditioner workshop, there are 3 dwarven workers, right?" That's right, it's because the 3 dwarven workers have better wages and other benefits than the other human workers in our workshop that I can't accept it. If Sir Chairman gave us the same treatment, how could we cause trouble? Based on what can they be treated better than us when everyone is doing the same work? Luther said with an angry look. Archie gave a cold laugh. Luther, if I didn't remember incorrectly, the weakest of the 3 dwarven workers in your workshop has a 4th level certificate and they have more than one job, right? Luther gave a snort. So what? Then what about you? Archie gave another cold laugh. Archie gave a cold laugh. You haven't even passed the 2nd level welder exam, right? Luther's face turned a bit red before he angrily said, What? You want to laugh at me? Don't think that you can laugh at me just because you passed the 2nd level welder exam? You aren't that much better than me, alright? Archie shook his head. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about the 3 dwarven workers. You can't even pass the 2nd level welder exam, but you want to be treated the same as the dwarven workers who have a 4th level certificate. Do you really not feel embarrassed? Luther's expression froze. After pausing, he angrily waved his hand and loudly said, Hey! Archie, whose side are you on? Could it be that you're the same as Sir Chairman, speaking up for the dwarves? Are you still human? Are you still my friend? Archie looked at Luther and said word for word, I am human, but I stand on the side of reason. Sir Chairman has already said that the stronger you are, the better you are treated. It is the same for all workers, whether it is human or other races. As for you, Luther, if you keep pestering me like this then, let's break off our friendship. Break off our friendship? Luther looked at Archie in a daze and couldn't help taking 2 steps back. He pointed at Archie and said in a trembling voice, You actually want to protect the dwarves and you want to break off our friendship? We are friends who grew up together. Archie's expression relaxed a bit. After being silent for a bit, he gave a soft sigh and walked over to pat Luther's shoulder. Luther, if you don't have a good time at the Domino Chamber of Commerce, try to find a way to come back. Believe me, New Flyer has more prospects than any other company. Being assured here is much better than being in any other company. Without waiting for Luther to say anything else, he turned to leave. Luther watched Archie leave in a daze. After a while, a trace of anger filled his heart and he gave a strong snort before turning to walk in another direction. The Domino Chamber of Commerce had agreed that as long as he could pull in a worker from New Flyer, they would privately give him 50 gold coins as a reward. If Archie didn't agree, he had to quickly find someone else. Chapter 677. Archie turned a corner and saw Luna, who had been waiting for him ahead of time. Luther wants you to go to the Domino Chamber of Commerce with him again? Luna slightly knit her brows. Looking in the direction Luther left in, she couldn't help shaking her head. You didn't agree, right? Of course not. Archie replied with a smile. If I really agreed, my father would have broken my legs. Luna revealed a smile. A while ago, Ophelia heard that Luther wanted Archie to leave New Flyer and flew into a rage. He warned Archie that he definitely couldn't agree, otherwise he would break his legs and chase him out of the house. Ophelia always thought that it was the appearance of the New Flyer that changed their family's lives, so he loved the New Flyer very much. Normally he didn't even allow others to say a single bad word about the New Flyer or Chairman Sue in front of him. He even said many times that he would stay in the New Flyer for the rest of his life and wouldn't go anywhere. Ophelia was very angry about the workers' strike a while ago, calling them all ungrateful bastard. If Archie really dared to agree to Luther's invitation and run to the Domino Chamber of Commerce, Ophelia might really chase him out of the house. Of course, even if she didn't consider Ophelia's love for the New Flyer, just based on her own point of view, Luna didn't think that leaving the New Flyer was a good choice. Even if the other companies were using this chance to poach the skilled workers of the New Flyer, giving them high wages and even doubling it, Luna didn't think that this was a good thing. Even if she could get a higher wage from the other companies, so what? Compared to wages, Luna cared more about the other benefits of the new flyer. For example, when Luna gave birth last year, she couldn't work for half a year. If it was any other company, they would have sent Luna home or even fired her. But the new flyer sent Luna home to rest and even gave her paid leave. This meant that she could peacefully prepare to give birth while still receiving a wage. Although it was just a basic wage of 10 gold coins a month, it made Luna feel that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was much more humane compared to the other companies. What's more, New Flyer would regularly send people to check on Luna. At the same time, they would send her some daily necessities from time to time, saying that it was special care for her during her pregnancy. Luna had never heard of any other Chamber of Commerce being able to do this. When she gave birth, Luna used her identity as an employee of New Flyer to enter the hospital set up by New Flyer. She enjoyed free delivery and medical care. Just this part alone saved Luna at least 20 gold coins. If they added in the benefits of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, the wage of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce wasn't the highest among all the companies, but the treatment they received wasn't worse than the other companies. As for caring for the workers, other than the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman being close to Chairman Sue, the other chambers of commerce couldn't compare to New Flyer at all. Thinking of this, Luna's eyes were a bit confused as she said with a sigh, "I really don't know what Luther and those people are thinking. They had such a good life in New Flyer, but they had to cause trouble. In the end, they angered Sir Chairman and were chased out by Sir Chairman. Don't look at how good they are now, they will definitely regret it in the future." Archie gave a shrug. There's no other way, some people are just too greedy and always feel unsatisfied. Right, speaking of this, Luna, your workshop should have received this news, right? Luna thought about it before reacting. You're talking about the matter of forming a workers' union? Our workshop also received it. I really don't know what Sir Chairman is thinking. Tell me, if those people angered him before, now that he has chased them out, this matter is considered over. Why would he create a workers' union? He also wants the union to give their opinions. Isn't this just finding trouble for himself? Archie knit his brows with a confused look on his face. Luna reached out a finger to poke Archie's forehead. How could you guess Sir Chairman's thoughts? But I feel that those people causing trouble should have reminded Sir Chairman, making him pay more attention to the thoughts of us normal workers. This is a good thing for us, at least we can directly give our opinions to the union. A good thing is a good thing, but I don't think there's a need. The company's benefits are already very good. I can't think of any opinions to give at all. You can't think of anything, but that doesn't mean others can't. Luna giggled as she said, "For example, I hope that we can build a few more toilets near the workshop. When it's time to rest, we have to line up to use the toilets, so it's quite troublesome." Archie looked at Luna and revealed a look of understanding. It was more troublesome for women to use the toilets compared to men, so this was indeed a problem. Sir Chairman has always been generous in this aspect, so I think this idea will definitely be passed. Archie revealed a smile as he looked up at the sky. All right, it's getting late, let's quickly go to work. As for opinions, we'll talk about them when we meet them at work. Luna nodded before following Archie to the New Flyer industrial area in the distance. It was the morning rush hour and the road from the living area to the industrial area was filled with New Flyer workers in uniform. The workers were gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, taking advantage of the free time before work to talk to each other. If one listened carefully, they would find that everyone was talking about the large layoff. Regarding this large layoff, the remaining workers all had the same opinion. They all felt that the workers who went on strike were reaping what they sowed. Now that they were fired by the company, it was their own fault and they weren't worthy of sympathy. Moreover, most of these people had found new jobs in other chambers of commerce after being fired, and most of them had obtained higher salaries. This made many of the remaining workers envious. Of course, most people were still as clear-headed as Archie and Luna. They knew the benefits of staying at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, as well as the long-term advantages. So they were very supportive of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and didn't hesitate to criticize the workers who left. The stream of people entered the industrial zone in a bustling manner, and then separated from the various roads and dispersed. Luna worked in the magic fan workshop and Archie worked in the steel plate welding workshop, but they were in different parts of the industrial area. So when they entered the industrial area, the two waved goodbye. After around 10 minutes, Archie entered the steel plate welding workshop. Looking over it, he found that the workshop was much more deserted. The workers in the steel plate welding workshop needed to grasp certain skills, so in the large strike, there were more workers in this workshop compared to other workshops. Adding in the fact that the other companies were secretly poaching people, there were many workers who left this workshop. This steel plate welding workshop had a total of 376 people before, but now there were only 243 people left. Losing 123 people all of a sudden, naturally this large workshop was much more deserted compared to before. Moreover, the company had experienced a large shock during this time, so the workers were a bit unsettled. There were less conversations between them and the atmosphere in the workshop became more serious. Seeing this scene, Archie couldn't help shaking his head as he gave a sigh in his heart. Although this was a serious blow to the company, Archie was very confident in New Flyer, especially Sir Chairman. Sir Chairman had turned New Flyer from nothing, developing it into a giant like this. This matter was a heavy blow to New Flyer in the eyes of others, but to Sir Chairman, it was just a small matter. If it wasn't, how could Sir Chairman be this straightforward? How could he use a method that shocked everyone and directly cut off 18,000 workers to solve this matter? Archie picked up his tools and prepared to work. When he was about to head to his post to begin the day's work, he suddenly heard a noise at the door of the workshop. Turning to look, he saw two dwarven mechanical engineers wearing the uniform of the Magic Machine Development Center, leading a group of human workers in. This group of human workers were pushing several small magic transport cars that had several strange-looking machines on them. The workers in the workshop couldn't help but stop what they were doing, and their eyes fell on the few machines one after another. The workshop manager Zonuk came forward and said a few words to the two dwarven mechanical engineers. When he turned to look at the curious workers, he had an excited look on his face. "Brothers, this is the Magic Machine Development Center's newly developed automatic production magic machine. With this thing, it'll be much easier for us to work in the future." Automatic production magic machine? The workers looked at each other in blank dismay. Before this, the Magic Machine Development Center had developed a series of semi-automatic production magic machines. There were several of them in the steel plate welding workshop. These semi-automatic production magic machines were much more efficient compared to the production magic machines that had to be operated by humans. Moreover, the quality was much more stable, so it greatly increased the efficiency of the workshop. But what was this automatic production magic machine? The so-called automatic production magic machine was even more advanced than semi-automatic production magic machines? This meant that they didn't need humans to operate them at all? This is too unimaginable. Chapter 678. A 3.7-meter long, 3.6-meter wide, and 7mm thick rectangular steel plate was placed on the workbench of the production magic machine by two workers. Then a worker pressed a button and the workbench was raised by 10 centimeters before being sent under the stamping stake. It stopped when the left corner was 37 centimeters above the ground. The stamping stake fell down and the steel plate slightly bent under the large pressure of the stamping stake. When the flat steel plate formed a faint curve, the stamping stake was raised up. The conveyor belt on the workbench sent the steel plate forward again, and the stamping stake fell down again, repeating the work from before. After repeating this several dozen times, the steel plate had already bent into a perfect semicircle. When the semicircle steel plate was sent out by the conveyor belt, Lumi, who had been waiting on the side, immediately charged over. She reached out her little hand to touch the steel plate, carefully looking it over before turning to look at Sue with a look of surprise. God, it's actually a perfect curve. Just how did you do it? Sue revealed a faint smile. You have to ask Sanchali about this. He is the one responsible for developing the core magic array of this automatic magic punch press, so he is more clear on the principles behind it than me. Sanchali, standing beside Sue, laughed before waving his hand. He pointed at Camby to his right and said, I only designed a few magic arrays. If it wasn't for Camby's skills, being able to perfectly realize my ideas, it wouldn't have any use at all. Camby cracked open his mouth and laughed heartily. He wasn't modest at all, but he raised his arm and patted Sanchali's thigh. Sanchali's magical array is truly miraculous. Otherwise, this machine wouldn't be so powerful. Lumi waved her little arm and loudly said, I don't want to waste time listening to you flatter each other. I just want to know, what is the principle behind this automatic magic punch press? Why was it able to stop at a specific place so precisely and work so precisely so many times in a row? There isn't even a single error? Sanchali and Camby looked at each other before turning to Sue. Although the two of them were very shocked when they heard the chairman introduce this dwarf named Lumi. However, after interacting with each other for so many days, the two of them had gotten used to it. Now they knew that Lumi had been hired by Sue as a special grade researcher for the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, but the information on the automatic production magic machines was a high-level secret of the company. Even if Lumi was a special grade researcher, she wasn't qualified to know this. Sure enough, Sue smiled and said to Lumi, Lumi, it's very troublesome to explain how this works. I can't explain it in a short time. If you are interested, I have several books on mechanical theory that I have compiled. You can take a look at them. After reading it, I believe you will understand most of it. Is the knowledge in the book the reason why you were able to invent these strange magic machines? Lumi asked in return. Although it's not very accurate, the foundation is indeed this mechanical theoretical knowledge. Sue smiled. Your halfling race's research on magic machines is mainly focused on magic, while the magic machines produced by our Chamber of Commerce are mainly in mechanical design. After you read these books, you will understand the difference. It's this amazing. Lumi looked at Sue with a curious gaze. Alright, you can show it to me later. Alright. After Sue agreed, he looked around before saying to Sanchali and Camby, You two stay here and keep monitoring the automatic production magic machines. If there are any problems, immediately report back. Then he waved his hand at Lumi. Lumi, the automatic production magic machines won't run away, so let's go to the shipyard to take a look. The engineers there have some questions about the magic ship blueprint you gave them. Lumi nodded and reluctantly left the automatic production magic machines. When she passed by Camby, she suddenly stood on her tiptoes and raised her head to look at Camby's head. Then she said with a dejected sigh, AI, it's been close to 100 years and I still haven't grown taller. Sue, Sanchali, and Camby didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Lumi was clearly over 100 years old, so why was she still behaving like a child? Could it be that this was the nature of the halfling race? The shipyard wasn't far from here, so Sue and Lumi only took a few minutes to walk over. When they saw Lumi, the human, dwarf, and elf engineers in the shipyard all charged over and surrounded Lumi. Hey Lumi, look, I've found that there is a problem with the blueprint you gave me. I've calculated that if this part is designed like this, when the speed of the magic-powered ship exceeds 50 kilometers per hour, the impact force may cause this part to receive excessive impact and ultimately cause excessive wear and tear, greatly reducing the lifespan of this part. Also here, take a look. If it's designed according to the function of the magic array, This one-side right-angle plate design will cause hindrances and the magic array won't be able to display its effect. So I suggest that we either remove this one-side right-angle plate or redesign it to display the effects of the magic array. The two of them are talking about minor problems, but the one I've found is a major problem. Look, if this magic array is embedded here, it will cause a small overlap with the magic array as the core of the magic array. Although this range isn't large, I've calculated that if the magic ship encounters a special situation, such as strong waves, the power output magic formation and the water magic formation used for stability need to operate at maximum power, which will be very serious. It will easily cause the two magic arrays to lose their effect. In such a critical situation, this accident may cause the entire magic ship to lose control. Hey, you're not the only one who's found a major problem, okay? The problem I've found is also very serious. Lumi, look. Lumi had a blank look on her face as she listened to the engineers talking about the various problems they found. For a moment, she was stunned. A week ago, when she took out the blueprint of the magic ship, she was very confident. Because this blueprint was the result of thousands of years of research on magic machines by the halflings, it was one of the highest-level blueprints of the halflings. She thought that with this blueprint, she would be able to establish her authority among the other magic ship engineers in New Flyer. The more important thing was to gain the recognition and respect of the halfling magic machines from these engineers. At that time, these engineers had indeed been shocked by the various exquisite designs on the magic ship blueprint, praising it very much. But she never thought that in just a week, these fellows would pick out all these problems at once, which really surprised Lumi. After listening for a while, the confusion in Lumi's heart gradually faded, and she was filled with anger. This blueprint was condensed from the essence of the halflings. How could there be so many problems? These fellows must be speaking nonsense. However, when Lumi took the blueprint and seriously discussed each problem with the engineers, she was immediately overwhelmed by the detailed data and experiment results that the engineers took out. Lumi never thought that these engineers would make several hundred calculations just because of a small problem, while also doing over 100 model experiments. Because of this foundation, the data they gave were all very perfect. No matter how small the problem was, it was completely exposed and Lumi couldn't refute it at all. It's no wonder New Flyer can only make so many strange magic machines, and there are very few problems. This kind of research spirit really is too terrifying. While Lumi was praising in her heart, she couldn't help looking back at Sui. The reason why these engineers could develop this kind of research spirit was clearly because of the strict requirements that the chairman of New Flyer had for them. While she was depressed that there were so many problems with the blueprint she took out, Lumi was also very excited. New Flyer had such a strong research team, it was no wonder they could make 3 giant steel ships like the Unfolding Wings, the Morning Sun, and the Goddess of Victory Iris. With this foundation, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce could develop a magic boat that could truly sail the seas, which was a goal that could be realized. Thinking of riding an even bigger magic ship and sailing across the seas, sailing thousands of kilometers, even tens of thousands of kilometers, finally finding her clansmen who had disappeared for 2,000 years on the other side of the endless seas, showing them the results of her even more outstanding magic machine research in New Flyer, making her clansmen sigh in admiration, Lumi's heart was filled with a burning passion. Seeing Lumi discussing with the engineers in the shipyard, Sui couldn't help smiling. Lumi had been in New Flyer for close to a month now, but she couldn't integrate well. Now that she had experienced this matter, she could find her shortcomings and she could get to know the other engineers better. This was something that Sui was very happy to see. Thinking about it, Sui gave up the idea of spending an afternoon with Lumi in the shipyard. He silently left and returned to the New Flyer's administrative headquarters in the center of the industrial district. When he opened the door to the CEO's office, he saw Kennard looking at a report in his hand with a worried look. Seeing Sui come in, Kennard shook his head with a bitter smile. Sir Chairman, we really met a big problem this time. Chapter 679. Oh, Sui asked in surprise. What big trouble? Is there a bigger problem than dismissing more than 18,000 workers all at once? Kennard looked at Sui with a bitter expression. Sir Chairman, strictly speaking, this big trouble was caused by the large-scale layoff. What is it specifically? Tell me about it. Kennard handed the report in his hand to Sui. This is the current situation of orders that I just calculated. Take a look. Sui took a look and found that the data on the report showed that New Flyer's orders had decreased slightly. But this was expected. After all, even if New Flyer had a huge advantage over other magic machine companies, it was impossible for them to monopolize the magic machine market. This was because New Flyer's large-scale layoffs had greatly affected their production, making it so that many buyers who had placed orders couldn't receive their goods on time. Even if New Flyer's products were better than other magic machines, in order to obtain the magic machines they needed, there were still many buyers who chose to order from other magic machine companies. Is there a problem? Sui asked Kennard in confusion. Kennard gave a bitter laugh. Sir Chairman, you still haven't noticed? This is our current order statistics, but if you look at the time, you'll find that in the past month, our company has received orders that have decreased by half compared to last year. This means that many buyers have lost confidence in our company. This is a very serious problem. Sui gave a faint smile and didn't look nervous at all. Lost confidence in us? That might not be the case. I feel that they have just lost their patience. As long as our company's production capacity is restored, I'm sure that they will turn around and order from our company again. Kennard shook his head and sighed. Sir Chairman, it will take a lot of effort to take back the market that we've already lost, and the results might not be good. Look, from the order statistics, our markets in the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Mirando Duchy, the Drake Duchy, and the newly opened 3 small duchies have shrunk quite a bit. According to my calculations, the losses caused by the shrinkage of the market have already exceeded 2 million gold coins. In addition to the 26 million gold coins that we paid when we dismissed the 18,000 workers, our losses in this matter have already exceeded a terrifying 5 million gold coins. Looking at the resentment in Kennard's eyes, Sui shrugged. He thought to himself, as the CEO of the New Flyer, Kennard is under a lot of pressure. With such a huge loss, it's no wonder that he would feel so much pressure and blame me. However, Sui did not regret his decision. After using a thunderous method to dismiss the 18,000 workers who were on strike, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's situation quickly stabilized. The workers in the various factories under the company had all returned to their normal working conditions. Although the atmosphere was a bit more serious compared to before, it had increased their work efficiency. Adding in the automatic production magic machines that Sanchali had developed, the efficiency of all the factories had greatly increased. Sui believed that if the workers had more time to adapt, the efficiency of the factories would be much higher compared to before they fired the 18,000 workers, which would increase the company's overall production capacity. Alright, in order to solve this problem, the losses can't be avoided. Instead of delaying it and letting this problem exist, it's better to solve it before it affects the company. Although we've lost over 5 million gold coins this time, compared to the positive effects of solving this problem for the company, I feel that this 5 million gold coins is worth it, Sui said with a serious look. Kennard was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. Even if he felt pain for the company's losses this time, as the CEO in charge of administrative matters, he was more clear than Sui on just how serious the problem behind this strike was. Although Sui's method of solving it was too intense, it was the most thorough way to solve the problem. After receiving the influence of Sui's merciless method, the employees in the New Flyer were all very loyal to the company, so they didn't dare cause any more trouble. Moreover, Sue E had proposed to create the new Flyer Workers Union, giving the employees a way to give their opinions to the company. This effectively prevented them from going on strike because of their opinions, while also increasing the cohesion of the company's employees. It could be said that the current New Flyer, compared to the New Flyer before the strike and the large-scale layoffs, it was much smoother and more efficient. As the CEO, Kennard had a deep understanding of this point. Therefore, if one were to calculate it seriously, the negative impact of these two events on the New Flyer was only the loss of 5 million gold coins. Even if these losses were serious for many companies, for many smaller companies that didn't have that much profit, and even for many first-class companies, for the current Frestec Chamber of Commerce, it wasn't a serious loss that they couldn't accept. New Flyer was now fully developed in several surrounding countries, and its products could be found in almost every part of every country. They also cooperated with every country, so their profits had been rapidly rising. According to the statistics, last month New Flyer's net profit had reached a shocking 48 million gold coins. Compared to this year's 930,000 gold coins in January, this was an increase of 50%. According to this trend, by the end of this year, New Flyer's annual profit would very likely exceed 15 million gold coins. Therefore, although the loss of 5 million gold coins wasn't small, it was completely within the acceptable range of New Flyer. Moreover, New Flyer's temporary orders were mainly affected by these two events. In the long run, as long as New Flyer had enough production capacity, then with the high quality and high performance of Xinfei brand magic machines, they could sell as much as they produced. They didn't have to worry about sales, so naturally, they didn't have to worry about profits. Therefore, what really troubled Kennard was that the other buyers had chosen other brands of magic machines. In the future, it would be very difficult for New Flyer to snatch back this market. This isn't a problem. In fact, this is what I want to see. Sue E smiled. I've been thinking about how to let other brands of magic machines enter the new market. Now that this has happened, it has made other people take the initiative to look at other brands of magic machines. This has saved me a lot of effort. Kennard couldn't help but roll his eyes. After working with Sue E for so long, he naturally knew that Sue Yi's dream had always been to spread the magic machine industry all over the continent. He didn't just want New Flyer to occupy the entire continent. For ordinary merchants, having their market snatched away by others was naturally abhorrent. However, Sue E was happy to see this happen. After thinking about it, Kennard didn't dwell on this issue. Instead, he raised another issue. Sir Chairman, although you don't have any objections to the market being snatched away, because of this incident, several countries have temporarily suspended their intentions to cooperate with our Chamber of Commerce. Even the Norton Duchy and the Rickaff Duchy have turned their eyes to other chambers of commerce, intending to cooperate with them in the magic machine industry. You have to take this seriously, right? This is a problem. However, the problem isn't that they don't want to cooperate with our Chamber of Commerce. It's that cooperating with other chambers of commerce is likely to lead these two duchies down the wrong path. It's a waste of time, manpower, and resources. It might even cause these two duchies to resent the magic machine industry. That wouldn't be good. Sue E pondered for a moment before continuing. How about this? Investigate which chambers of commerce these two duchies choose to cooperate with. After that, we'll find these chambers of commerce and inform them of some of the standards we've set. I hope they'll strictly follow them. If they're unwilling, then they'll have to bear the consequences. Sue Yi's tone was very calm, but his words carried an unquestionable dominance. New Flyer currently held an absolute position in the magic machine industry. Sue E naturally had the confidence to say this. Kennard didn't reveal any surprise and nodded in agreement. Then what about the Norton Duchy and the Rickaff Duchy? How should we deal with them? Kennard asked. Send someone to contact them and tell them that our company is willing to cooperate with them in terms of magic machines that other companies can't. Sui replied. Kennard was surprised. Sir Chairman, you mean? Sui nodded. Yes. In terms of magic machines, our company is also willing to transfer some of the technology to them. Then what about the military magic machines? Kennard carefully asked. Sui looked at him. What do you think? Seeing Sui's eyes, Kennard let out a sigh of relief and calmed down. No matter how generous Sir Chairman was, no matter how much he thought about the other companies, no matter how much he wanted to promote the magic machine industry on the continent, he still had a bottom line. The military magic machines were New Flyers' exclusive weapons, so they could be considered New Flyers' trump card. Before the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was strong enough that no one could match them, it was best to keep this in their hands. Chapter 680. The Sandy River flowed east from the falling rain forest. When it passed through the Mirando Duchy, it was renamed the Mirando River. Then, after flowing east for another 700 kilometers, it passed through the Mirando Duchy and entered another duchy, the Norton Duchy. As the river flowed less than 50 kilometers into the Norton Duchy, it would flow into a clear and wide lake, so the Nortons didn't change its name to the Norton River. Instead, they kept it as the Mirando River. However, after the river flowed into the lake, which the locals named Mirror Lake, it flowed out of the lake and flowed northeast into an even wider river that was twice as wide. It changed its name completely and became the largest and most important river in the Norton Duchy, the Anfil River. According to legend, more than 3,000 years ago, the most famous female warrior of the human race, Anfir, was bathing in the Mirror Lake. However, she encountered a strong warrior of the elf tribe. The two of them fought fiercely on the Mirror Lake. In the end, a huge hole was opened in the Mirror Lake. The lake water poured out and formed a river. Thus, the later generations named the river Anfield River. At the border where the Anfil River flowed out of Mirror Lake, not far from the lake, there was a small town called Noxus. Because it was close to the clear Mirror Lake, it wasn't far from the border between the Mirando Duchy and the Rudsun Kingdom. Adding in the fact that it was backed by the Mirror Lake and the Anfield River, as well as the main road of the Norton Duchy that passed through the town, Noxus town was much bigger than the other small towns of the Norton Duchy. It wasn't even worse than some cities. Whether it was from the Mirando Duchy or the Kingdom of Ruhr, anyone who wanted to go to the Canlampire would have to pass through Noxus, so Noxus was very lively all year round. Thanks to these travelers, the lives of the townsfolk were much better than those of other places in the Norton Duchy. When they faced their compatriots from other parts of the duchy, even those from the Mirando Duchy and the Kingdom of Ruhr, they felt more or less superior. However, in the past 2 months, the townsfolk of Noxus had lost their sense of superiority. The reason was very simple. In front of them appeared a group of people who were clearly living a much better life than them. If these people were rich nobles and merchants, it would be fine. However, these people were obviously ordinary people. Compared to them, their status was not noble at all. Among these people, Old Man Maurer of the elite tavern at the entrance of Noxus was one of them. Old Man Maurer didn't have the slightest intention of chasing these 3 beggars out. Instead, he greeted them with a warm smile. "Hey, are you guys off work?" The 3 men glanced around the tavern and chose an empty table to sit at. One of them slapped the table and shouted, "Old Man Maurer, as usual, bring 2 caddies of wine." "All right, I'll be right there." Old Man Maurer replied and quickly brought 2 caddies of the best wine in the tavern. He then brought 2 plates of cooked beef and walked over with a smile. After putting down the dishes, Old Man Maurer asked, "What is it? Don't you need to work in the afternoon? Why are you here to drink in the middle of the day?" The 3 men chuckled. The one who spoke just now waved his hand and said, "I heard that some important person's caravan is going to pass through today." The supervisor said that the road will be temporarily paused to make way for the important person. Once the important person passes, we will start work tomorrow. So it's like this. Old Man Marr nodded and was a bit curious. I wonder who this important person is. They actually stopped the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce just to let him pass. They have a lot of face. I heard that it's an important person from the Canla Empire, who came from the Kingdom of Roer and plans to return to the Canla Empire. As for who it is, I don't know. From the Canla Empire? Then it really is an important person. No wonder. Old Man Marr muttered and turned back to the counter. Just as he tidied up, a few shadows flashed by the door and a few men with dirty clothes came in. Seeing these men with the same clothes as the three men from before walk in, Old Man Marr immediately went up to greet them with a smile. These Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce workers were generous and never caused trouble because they were drunk. It could be said that they were the most welcomed guests in all the taverns and restaurants in town. Even if they were a bit dusty because of the road construction, as long as the gold they took out was real, it wouldn't stop Old Man Marr from giving them the most sincere and warm smile. However, when he was free, Old Man Marr would always mutter in his heart. He didn't know where this Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce came from. Why would they give their workers such good treatment? Old Man Marr had once taken the time to go to the road construction site to observe. He found that most of the workers were doing simple manual labor. Other than the work that he didn't understand and the occasional strange machine that he didn't know what to do, there didn't seem to be any difficulty. Moreover, these workers had very fixed working hours, from 8 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon and from 2 to 6 in the afternoon. There was also a set day of rest every week. This kind of work was already considered very easy for Old Man Marr. But the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had given these workers a shocking wage. From the number that a drunk worker had spat out, one could tell that on the Omrit Chamber of Commerce's road construction site, the lowest level worker could earn over 15 gold coins a month. As for the slightly higher level workers who needed to operate the large-scale construction magic machines, they could earn a shocking income of over 20 or even close to 30 gold coins a month. It had to be known, Old Man Marr had been running this tavern in Noxus Town for many years. He woke up early and went to work late every day, almost never resting. He only earned around 300 to 400 gold coins a year. While these workers were doing such easy work, their annual income was not much less than his. As for the ordinary townsfolk of Noxus, they were several times stronger. So in the month that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had built the road outside of Noxus Town, there were many young people who wanted to join the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. It was a pity that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce came from the Lampari Kingdom that was over 1,000 kilometers away. According to the rules, they couldn't casually recruit citizens of the Norton Duchy as workers, so they rejected everyone's requests. But it's said that the mayor was currently applying to the high level of the duchy to allow the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to recruit local workers in the Norton Duchy. Moreover, it's said that the road that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was building in the Norton Duchy would pass through the entire duchy and would even enter the Canla Empire. The entire project would take a year and a half, which meant that they would stay in the Norton Duchy for a year and a half. It was very likely that the duchy would reach an agreement with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, allowing them to recruit local workers. Thinking of this, Old Man Marr had an idea. He came to the table of the three men from before and sat down in an empty chair. He said to the three of them with a smile, "There's something I want to ask you about." The three of them often came to this tavern to drink, so they were very familiar with Old Man Marr. They nodded when they heard this. "Speak, what is it?" Old Man Marr thought about it and considered his words before asking, "The work that you're doing. Are there any requirements?" "Requirements?" The three of them looked at each other before giving a shrug. "There aren't any requirements. It's fine as long as you have strength and stamina. Of course, it's different for different jobs. The three of us are different. I'm mainly in charge of mixing the concrete, controlling the proportions of the materials, and operating the magic concrete mixer. The two of them are in charge of paving the road, so they need to know how to operate the magic vibrator. They need to level the road, which requires a bit of experience and skill. Oh. Then if a new person enters your company, what can they do? Old Man Mar asked again. That person looked over Old Man Mar and said with a smile, "What? Old Man Mar, do you have any relatives who want to work for us?" Old Man Mar laughed. "I have a nephew from far away who is interested. Do you think that's fine?" The three of them shook their heads. "We can't decide that, we have to ask the manager. But I've heard the manager mention that the company hasn't finished negotiating with your Norton Duchy yet. If you want to recruit local workers, you'll have to wait a bit." "It's like this." Old Man Mar lowered his head to think before going back to the counter to cut another plate of cooked beef. He placed it on the table of the three of them and said with a smile, "Then if there's any news, I'll have to trouble the three of you to keep an eye out for me. Let me tell my nephew as soon as possible." The three of them looked at the plate of cooked beef on the table that was clearly more than a normal plate and laughed. "Relax, we'll definitely tell you if there's any news." One of them paused before suddenly thinking of something and saying, "Old Man Mar, you can tell your nephew that there's no need to rush and he doesn't need to come to our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. Although we earn quite a bit from the construction site, it's very dirty and tiring. It's not that good of a job, so he might not be used to it. That's still better than him staying at home all day or farming." Old Man Mar said with a smile. "Young people, what's there to be afraid of?" "That's right. But when I left the Lampari Kingdom, I heard that New Flyer was about to invest in your Norton Duchy. With your Noxus town in this position, New Flyer definitely won't let it go. When New Flyer comes, you won't have to worry about jobs anymore." New Flyer. Old Man Mar frowned as he thought for a bit. "I think I've heard quite a few people mention this Chamber of Commerce. What? Is New Flyer that amazing? Why is it that when they invest here, we don't have to worry about jobs? Amazing? Haha, New Flyer isn't just amazing." That person's face was filled with pride, as if he was bragging about himself. "Let me tell you, as long as New Flyer is willing to invest in 1 or 2 factories in your town, I can guarantee that your town will completely change. Do you know Ampriston Town in the Mirando Duchy, that's closest to our Lampari Kingdom? It's because New Flyer invested there that the town is about to become Ampriston City." "Really?" Old Man Mar was skeptical. New Flyer was only a chamber of commerce. How could it be so powerful? Chapter 681. After the busiest time of the afternoon, Mar finished cleaning up the tavern and found that there were no customers. After thinking about it, he closed the door and decided to give himself an afternoon break. After leaving the tavern, he went straight to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's construction site. His little sister had been worried about his nephew and had asked him several times, asking him to help her investigate the situation of the Omrit Chamber of Commerce. That way, his nephew would have a chance to enter this company and obtain a high salary, so of course Old Man Mar had to put in a bit more effort. When he arrived at the construction site, he found that it was just as the three people had said. The entire construction site was on holiday. Apart from a few workers, the rest of the workers had disappeared without a trace. Looking at the scorching sun above his head, Old Man Mar guessed that the workers were sleeping during the holidays. He looked around and locked his eyes on the workers on duty. Old Man Mar walked over and took out the wine and dishes that he had already prepared. He wanted to get closer to them and find out more about the situation, but he was sternly rejected by the workers. "Sorry, according to the rules, we can't drink during working hours. We appreciate your kind intentions." The dark-faced worker seemed to be the leader of the workers. Since he didn't accept, the other workers didn't say a word. I specially brought it here. I'm afraid it's not good to bring it back. the dark-faced worker chuckled. "Old man, if you want to find out something, you can go directly to the supervisor. There." The dark-faced worker pointed to the other side of the construction site. "Do you see? The supervisor is there. You can ask him directly. He'll definitely know more than us." Old Man Marr looked in the direction that he was pointing at and found a man in the same uniform standing in the distance. He seemed to be looking at the road in the distance and waiting for something. "He's your supervisor?" Old Man Marr hesitated for a moment before clenching his teeth and walking over to the supervisor. When he got closer, Old Man Marr found that this man was indeed different from the other workers. Although he was wearing the same uniform, his uniform was clearly a lot cleaner. There wasn't much mud on his face either. It could be seen that he didn't normally work on the construction site. Hearing the sound of Old Man Mavor approaching, the man turned his head and glanced at Old Man Mavor. When he saw the dishes in Old Man Mavor's hands, he frowned slightly. "Dad, what can I do for you?" This man, who should be the supervisor, was obviously more dignified, but his tone was very gentle and polite, which made Marr's father feel more at ease. After chatting for a while, Old Man Marr explained his intentions. The answer given by the supervisor, who called himself Nar, was similar to the answer given by the previous 3 workers, but the timing was more detailed. According to him, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would only consider recruiting local workers after a month, so he hoped that Father Marr could wait patiently. "Don't worry, as long as your nephew's physique is good enough, he has strength, and there's nothing wrong with him, we can recruit him. As for the technical problems, I can slowly teach him at work." Manager Nar's answer made Old Man Marr feel relieved. When they were about to leave, Old Man Marr couldn't help but ask curiously, "Excuse me, who is the important person who is going to leave today? He can actually make you stop work for half a day to wait for him." Manager Nar revealed a faint smile and shook his head. "I'm sorry, this involves some secrets, so it isn't convenient to disclose." "Oh." Old Man Marr could only helplessly nod and leave. Watching Old Man Marr leave, as well as the wine bottle and the bag of beef in his hand, Manager Nar couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. Although he didn't think that Ambassador Hakkinen was going to pass through this place was a secret, out of caution, he couldn't casually disclose this information to an outsider who wasn't related to this. As for the matter of recruiting workers that Old Man Marr asked about, Manager Nar was actually more anxious than him. They had been laying this road in the Norton Duchy for 3 months, and up until now, they had only laid down 50 kilometers. This efficiency was without a doubt very low. The reason for this low efficiency, other than being in the Norton Duchy where it took time to transport the materials needed to lay the road, the main problem was that they didn't have enough manpower. Since they saw the Lampari Kingdom's economy soar, the surrounding countries all deeply understood the importance of building roads to a country's economic growth. So the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had received countless orders from the surrounding countries to build roads, causing the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's construction team to be busy all year round. Because the Norton Duchy and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had just started cooperating, the construction team they sent wasn't that big. There were less than 100 workers, so naturally they were a bit stretched. If the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could reach an agreement with the Norton Duchy, allowing the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to recruit local workers, it would be fine. But because this was their first cooperation, the Norton Duchy was very cautious. They spent several months without making a decision, so Manager Nar could only rely on the construction team to complete the work. Fortunately, according to the latest news, President Cruz had already personally met with Duke Norton and made great progress in the negotiations. If there were no accidents, the Norton Duchy should be able to reach an agreement with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in a month's time. At that time, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would be able to recruit local workers to assist in the work. Although the newly recruited workers wouldn't be able to complete a lot of work that required a certain amount of technical content, they could reduce the workload of the skilled workers in the construction team and allow them to focus on the main technical work. Naturally, this would greatly increase the efficiency of the road paving. It's already so difficult to cooperate with the small Norton Duchy. If we cooperate with the Canla Empire, wouldn't it be even more difficult? Manager Nar frowned as he thought about these problems while continuing to look at the road that had already been repaired. After about half an hour, a black dot appeared at the end of the road, and a moment later, it turned into a huge convoy. Feeling the rumbling sound of wheels rolling on the road, Manager Nar was greatly surprised. Although he had already heard that Ambassador Hakkinen would bring back many things when he returned to the Canla Empire, he never would have thought that Ambassador Hakkinen would bring a motorcade of large transport magic cars. Looking at the pure black magic sedan in front of the motorcade, Manager Nar was a bit speechless. This Ambassador Hakkinen seemed like he was used to driving in the Kingdom of Ruhr. He never thought that other places would have smooth roads like the Kingdom of Ruhr, allowing the magic sedan to drive through. For example, in the Norton Duchy, even if they were paving the road that was known as the best road in the Norton Duchy, the road condition was still very bad. Even if the magic sedan could drive on it, it would definitely be very bumpy. Rather, it was the large transport magic cars with their heavy bodies and large tires that didn't have any problems driving on this bumpy road. After a while, the leading magic sedan drove to the end of the road that had already been repaired and stopped in front of Manager Nar. The door opened and the fat Ambassador Hakkinen struggled to get out of the driver's seat. In the passenger seat beside him, the vice chairman of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, Riley, came out. "Greetings to Sir Ambassador." No matter how much he criticized in his heart, Manager Nar still respectfully gave Ambassador Hakkinen a bow before turning to Vice Chairman Riley. "Nar, how is the project going?" Vice Chairman Riley asked. "It's going smoothly, but we don't have enough people, so we can't speed it up." Manager Nar honestly replied. There's no need to rush. Sir Chairman said that the Norton Duchy isn't in a rush to paving this road, so we don't need to rush either." Vice Chairman Riley turned to look at Manager Riley. "Sir Ambassador, if the Canla Empire is willing to give our company enough support, our company can pave this road much faster. As long as you have a request, it isn't a problem to pave 100 kilometers a month." Ambassador Hakkinen nodded, not saying anything. He had returned to the Canla Empire this time, mainly to bring back the large amount of household magic machines he had obtained from the new flyer. As long as he could sell these household magic machines, he would be able to earn a large profit of at least 200,000 gold coins. Compared to this, how could he care about a small matter like how fast the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could pave the road? Thinking of the new flyer, Ambassador Hakkinen suddenly thought of a problem. He looked around and doubtfully asked, "Didn't I hear that the new flyer was investing in the Norton Duchy? Why haven't I seen the new flyer symbol on the road?" Vice Chairman Riley shook his head and said, "Sir Ambassador, I'm afraid the information you received is no longer valid. Because of the changes that happened with the new flyer, the Norton Duchy has already cancelled their cooperation with the new flyer. According to what I know, the Norton Duchy is planning to cooperate with several companies in the Lampari Kingdom that also produce magic machines, inviting them to invest." Hey, what is the Norton Duchy thinking? They aren't cooperating with the new flyer and are looking for other companies. Isn't this asking for trouble? Ambassador Hakkinen curled his lips with a look of disdain. "I think that Duke Norton's brain has suddenly gone bad, right?" Vice Chairman Liss and Manager Nar looked at each other with smiles. After this Ambassador Hakkinen received benefits from the new flyer, he really was thinking about the new flyer. Perhaps if the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce wanted to cooperate with the Canla Empire, they should invest more in Ambassador Hakkinen. Chapter 682. Ambassador Hakkinen was just passing by Noxus Town. Under manager Nar's hospitality, they had lunch in a restaurant that had just opened half a month ago. Ambassador Hakkinen and Vice Chairman Riley set off on the road to the Canla Empire again. This time Vice Chairman Riley was accompanying Ambassador Hakkinen to the Canla Empire's capital, Wimbledon City, to meet several officials of the Canla Empire's government department. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was trying to use Ambassador Hakkinen's relationship to make the Canla Empire realize the convenience and necessity of road. Then they would pave roads all over the Canla Empire. According to the plan, if everything went smoothly, in a year and a half, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would have finished paving the roads in the Norton Duchy. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the Canla Empire would have reached a cooperation relationship, and they would be able to enter the Canla Empire to continue paving the road. But that was a matter of a year later, so manager Nar didn't need to worry about it for now. After sending Ambassador Hakkinen and Vice Chairman Riley off, manager Nar came to the clear mirror lake to the northwest of Noxus Town. Not far from the entrance of the Anfield River, there used to be a small pier in the mirror lake. It was used to dock the boats that came from the Mirando River above the mirror lake and the Anfield River downstream of the mirror lake. But 3 months ago, when the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had entered the Norton Duchy to pave the roads, there was a fleet that came from the Mirando Duchy upstream. They had changed this pier, increasing the size of the pier by more than 10 times. During this time, the cement, steel bars, and large amounts of construction magic machines that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had used to pave the roads here, other than a portion that came from the Mirando Duchy, most of them came from the Mirando River into the clear mirror lake before being unloaded from this pier. This time manager Nar came to this pier to receive the batch of construction materials that had been set to arrive today. However, when he arrived at the dock and waited for a while, he was surprised to find that there was a majestic fleet of at least 20 ships coming from the upper reaches of Mirror Lake. What surprised him even more was that this fleet was made up of the new flyer less than 4 months ago, the medium transport magic boats that hadn't been popularized yet. This medium-sized transport magic boat far surpassed the old wooden boats and was several times faster. Once it was released, it was welcomed by the river transport companies of the surrounding countries. However, the only one who could obtain this medium transport magic ship from New Flyer was the Lampari Kingdom's Porter Chamber of Commerce. When the Porter Chamber of Commerce bought 30 medium transport magic boats from New Flyer, they had quickly seized a large amount of the Lampari Kingdom's river transport business in just a few months. They had gone from a small company in Banta City that was about to go bankrupt to a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom. When the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce transported materials to the Norton Chamber of Commerce, because it was far away, they had to go through the Porter Chamber of Commerce each time, so manager Nar wasn't surprised at all. But there weren't that many materials sent each time. It would only take 1 or at most 2 medium transport magic ships to take care of it. Why were there over 20 of them this time? It had to be known, the Porter Chamber of Commerce only had a total of 30 medium transport magic boat. Sending over 20 ships at once, wasn't this equal to sending all of the transport forces of the Porter Chamber of Commerce? As a company that focused on river transport, they wouldn't be this unwise, right? Manager Nar watched in bewilderment as the fleet rode the wind and waves on the surface of Mirror Lake and quickly sailed in. When the fleet approached the dock, the first medium transport magic boat stopped and several people came out. Manager Nar was even more confused. He recognized the 2 who came out. They were the people in charge of transporting materials from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. But the people behind them clearly weren't people from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. What was even more incredible was that, after these people came out of the boat, there were 2 dwarves and an elf. Manager Nar looked at the 2 dwarves and the male elf with wide eyes, as his heart was filled with questions. Although because of the example set by the New Flyer, The companies of the Lampari Kingdom and the other countries were gradually accepting other races into their companies. Other than the new flyer, there had never been an elf that was willing to join a human company. Although the clothes of the elf and the two dwarves were different in size, whether it was the style, color, or workmanship, it was clearly the same uniform. Adding in the eye-catching half-wing symbol on their chests, it clearly showed that the three of them were from the new flyer. But why did the people of the new flyer come here? Wasn't there a rumor before that the Norton Kingdom had lost confidence in the new flyer because of the strike and the large number of layoffs? They gave up on cooperating with the new flyer and turned to cooperate with the other companies of the Lampari Kingdom? Manager Nar was filled with doubts. When the two people in charge of transporting materials from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce came over, he quickly pulled them to the side to ask them. After a while, he finally understood what had happened. It turned out that the Porter Chamber of Commerce had sent such a large fleet, sending over 20 medium transport magic boats to the Norton Duchy. Other than transporting materials to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the main reason was to transport materials for the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce. The Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce was the new partner that the Norton Kingdom chose to cooperate with after giving up on the new flyer. According to the agreement between the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce and the Norton Duchy, the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce would invest in 3 household magic machine factories near Noxus Town. They would be a magic fan factory, a magic light factory, and a bicycle factory. Because this investment wasn't small for the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce, the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce placed great importance on it. Chairman Ankh Aaron had personally come to deliver the materials. As for the 2 dwarves and 1 elf that the new flyer had sent, there were also 3 human engineers. Their role was to help the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce finish building these 3 factories. On the surface, this was because the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce didn't have enough experience in foreign investments, so the new flyer had sent people to help them. But according to the private conversation between manager Nar and Ankh Aaron, he learned that the 3 factories the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce were building had to be built according to the standards set by the new flyer. The people that the new flyer had sent other than to help, their main role was to supervise. Manager Nar didn't feel that there was a problem with this. The new flyer had always promoted their standards and hoped that the other magic machine companies would follow these standards. Even if the other magic machine companies didn't care about the new flyer's absolute leading position and authority in the magic machine industry, they would have scruples about investing large amounts of manpower in research if they didn't follow these standards, so there wasn't a single company that wouldn't follow. So when the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce reached an agreement with the Norton Duchy and came to the Norton Duchy to invest in factories, Ankh Aaron even took the initiative to ask the new flyer to send people to supervise the construction of these 3 factories, not holding back at all. After understanding all of this, manager Nar found it a bit funny. He really didn't know what the Norton Duchy was thinking. They didn't choose to cooperate with the new flyer and chose to cooperate with the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce. In the end, the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce had to listen to the arrangements of the new flyer. In the end, the Norton Chamber of Commerce couldn't avoid the new flyer. But thinking about it, even if it was the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that could be considered a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom, they had to work closely with the new flyer. It could even be said that they couldn't leave the new flyer at all. For example, the most important road construction project for the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, the cement, steel bars, and various magic machines all came from the new flyer. If they were missing anything, manager Nar didn't know how to pave the road. Not mentioning work, just based on his daily life, just based on today, manager Nar had used the magic stove, the magic fan, the magic air conditioner, the magic sedan, the various magic lamps, and the small magic water pump, these magic machines, which one of them didn't come from the new flyer. Thinking of this, manager Nar suddenly felt a chill in his heart. So without knowing it, The Frestec Chamber of Commerce's products had already dominated his life? What shocked him even more was that he didn't resist these magic machines at all. On the contrary, if he were to lose these magic machines, he might not even know how to live anymore. I really don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Manager Nar watched as the workers moved the goods out of the medium transport magic ship bit by bit. Then he looked at Aaron and the engineers and technicians sent by the new flyer, who were discussing this, and he couldn't help shaking his head. Actually, putting aside these random thoughts, he had to admit that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's appearance with all these useful magic machines had brought endless convenience to his life. No matter what, this should be a good thing. Rather, it was unknown why the Norton Duchy wanted to avoid the new flyer and chose to cooperate with the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce. This really might not be a good thing. Chapter 683. While Manager Nar was worried about the Norton Duchy's decision, Sue-Yi, who was 2,000 kilometers away, had just looked away from the Norton Duchy on the map with a relaxed expression. Although he was disappointed that the Norton Duchy gave up on cooperating with New Flyer, he didn't think that it was a big problem. It was impossible for New Flyer's development to be smooth, and according to Sue-Yi's thoughts, he had to leave some space for the other magic machine companies to develop. The Norton Duchy taking the initiative to cooperate with the Ankh Magic Chamber of Commerce didn't go against his original intentions, rather it made him feel more gratified. His eyes kept moving on the map, and after stopping at the Mirando Duchy, they stopped at the Kingdom of Ruhr. Looking at the several black dots on the map, Sue-Yi stroked his chin and fell into deep thought. The cooperation between New Flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr had always been very smooth. With the support of King Tarek, whether it was directly investing in factories in the Kingdom of Ruhr or investing in local companies, New Flyer had always been able to obtain approval, and they had never met any resistance from the government. Now New Flyer could be said to have blossomed all over the Kingdom of Ruhr, with all kinds of Xinfei brand magic machines being sold all over the place. It had only been 9 months this year, and New Flyer's income from the Kingdom of Ruhr had already reached over 5 million gold coins. It wasn't even that much less than New Flyer's income from the Lampari Kingdom. Of course, this was also because New Flyer's factories in the Lampari Kingdom were all joint ventures, so they needed to split the profits with the Lampari Kingdom. However, in this large cooperation, there was a problem that always troubled Sue-Yi. No matter what cooperation New Flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr had, they would receive the support of King Tarek. But there was only one cooperation that Sue-Yi wasn't satisfied with, which was the mineral trade. The only territory that New Flyer could control was the Principality of Constantine. But the Principality of Constantine wasn't that big, so its mineral resources were limited. With the increasing production scale of New Flyer and the increasing demand for magic machines in the outside world, the mineral resources in the Principality of Constantine couldn't keep up with New Flyer's consumption. So in the past, Sue-Yi had been purchasing large amounts of mineral resources from the surrounding countries. Among them, the Lampuri Kingdom was the one that provided the most resources to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Just last month alone, New Flyer had bought 7,000 tons of iron ores and 480,000 tons of non-ferrous metal ores from the Chamber of Commerce. The Kingdom of Ruhr and the Lampari Kingdom were about the same size, and their mineral resources were even slightly better. New Flyer had only bought 160,000 tons of iron ores from the Kingdom of Ruhr, and less than 10,000 tons of non-ferrous metal ores. Sue-Yi had mentioned this matter to King Tarek many times, hoping to increase the share of ores sold by the Kingdom of Ruhr, but King Tarek had always vaguely dealt with it and never gave Sue-Yi a satisfactory answer. Sue-Yi even claimed that he could open 1 or 2 steel mills and non-ferrous metal smelting factories in the Kingdom of Ruhr, mining and smelting locally, and only processing and selling in the Kingdom of Ruhr, but it still didn't move King Tarek. After many fruitless attempts, Sue-Yi had no choice but to give up and think of other ways. When Narvel led the Shinfei fleet to Nissi City, trying to buy various minerals through private channels, it was for this reason. But after discussing it with Elder Undine, through the cooperation with the Azhara tribe, King Tarek was very likely to loosen up on this, which made Sui feel much more relaxed. But in the end, if New Flyer wanted to continue developing, it was most important to have more resources in their hands. Always hoping to obtain mineral resources from other countries, it was hard to not feel like their lifeline was in the hands of others. Sui didn't like this feeling, so he had been looking for a way to solve it. After looking at the kingdom of Ruhr for a bit, he turned to the north and passed over the Lampari kingdom, stopping at the Sak kingdom. Seeing that the Sak kingdom was at least a third bigger than the Lampari kingdom on the map and seeing the several dozen black dots on it, Sui's eyes couldn't help burning. It was almost impossible to cooperate with the Sak kingdom, so if he wanted to obtain large amounts of resources from the Sak kingdom, other than buying some through private channels, there was only one way, which was to conquer this country. As for how to conquer, he had to properly consider it. Do. Soft knocks on the door pulled Sui back from his thoughts. Is it Betty? Come in. Sui said in a loud voice. The door opened and Betty, who was wearing a maid uniform, slowly came in. She first gave a standard bow to Sui before saying in a soft voice, Sir Chairman, there is a guest here. Oh? What guest? Did he say who he was? Sui looked over Betty's maid uniform and asked back with a smile. After Betty and Carol came here, they saw that Liz and Linda were both pregnant and couldn't move. Sui and Steele weren't willing to recruit more servants, so the two of them automatically took on the role of maids. Because the two of them had undergone strict training in the Lampuri Royal Palace, they were very familiar with this kind of work. Therefore, they had only been here for a little over 2 months, but they had already tidied up the entire manor and received everyone's praise. But because of the worries in his heart, Sui never gave them a clear identity like Liz and Linda. Betty and Carol didn't complain about this at all, rather they were very happy every day. They said that staying here was much more relaxing than staying in the royal palace. He called himself Leslie Stark and said that Sir Chairman should see him as soon as possible. He didn't have much time. When Betty said this, her expression was a bit strange. She had been here for 2 months and had received many guests that came to see Sui, but no matter what guest came, they were all very polite. There had never been a guest that was this arrogant before. However, Sui wasn't surprised at all, rather he said with a smile, It's him. I knew it, after hearing the news of our fleet arriving in Nissi City. He should have appeared a long time ago. Betty curiously followed behind Sui. After leaving the study and heading to the living room, she saw the young man who was around 30 years old sitting in a chair with a lazy look, like he didn't treat her as a guest at all. Hey Leslie, why did you become so dark? Sui looked over Leslie and couldn't help revealing a smile. You were a standard pretty boy before, but now you've turned into charcoal. If those noble ladies and madams see you, wouldn't they be very disappointed? His skin had turned into a healthy bronze color. It was completely different from the pale skin of a noble's. Leslie broke out in laughter. I already told you, those noble ladies and madams mainly look at faces. Do you believe that even if I become like this, if they see me, they will still scream? Sui shook his head with a smile. I believe you. All right, let's not talk nonsense. Tell me, where did you go during this time? Looking at you, if I'm not wrong, you should have gone to the sea? You're right, Leslie said with a smile. I've been wandering on the sea for half a year, that's why I've become so dark. Sui looked at Leslie with a strange expression. Hey, you wouldn't really want to become a pirate, right? There's nothing bad about being a pirate. Leslie shrugged and reached out his hand to Sui. All right, where's the ship you promised me? I heard that your Shinfei merchant fleet sailed over 2,000 kilometers on the sea from the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr. With this technology, there shouldn't be a problem with the ship you promised me, right? Sue-Yi looked down at Leslie's outstretched hand and tapped it with a finger. There's no problem with the ship, but what about your money? A large magic boat that can sail from here to the Kingdom of Ruhr costs over 2 million gold coins, and our company has only made 3 of them. Are you certain you can take out 2 million gold coins? 2 million gold coins. Leslie was stunned. Hey, Sue-Yi, are you trying to scare me? It's just a ship, it's actually this expensive? Sue-Yi laughed. It seems like you haven't seen the 3 ships yet, no wonder you asked this question. I dare guarantee that if you saw them, you wouldn't ask such a stupid question. Leslie knit his brows, but he wasn't angry. After being silent for a bit, he spread his hands and calmly said, All right, it's indeed impossible for me to take out 2 million gold coins at once. But Sue-Yi, since you can make a large ship, you should be able to make a smaller ship, right? I just need one that's 4 to 5 times bigger than the magic speedboat. With a ship that big, I think it's enough for me to charge through the sea. Sue-Yi slowly shook his head. No, Leslie. With the appearance of our Fresteck Chamber of Commerce's large magic boats, it means that the era of relying on wooden boats to travel on the sea is over. I sincerely advise you that it's best to use a large ship because only a large ship can make you safer on the sea. Leslie knit his brows. I say, Sue-Yi, are you deliberately angering me? I clearly can't take out that much money, but you're recommending a large ship that I can't afford. Actually, you can't make one right now, so you're deliberately avoiding it, right? That's not it. I have a ship and I can give it to you even if you don't have enough money. But what? You want to use me? Seeing the strange smile on Sue-Yi's face, Leslie revealed a smile. He relaxed his body and leaned back in his chair as he said to Sue-Yi in a calm voice, All right, I'll give you a chance. I can be used by you, but it depends on what kind of price you give. Sue-Yi couldn't help rolling his eyes. What use? It sounds so bad. This is cooperation. Do you understand cooperation? Leslie gave a laugh. All right, is there a difference? Quickly tell me, what do you want me to do? Sue-Yi turned to look at Betty on the side. Betty immediately understood. She bowed to the 2 of them and retreated. Seeing Sue-Yi being this serious, Leslie's relaxed expression disappeared. He sat up and looked at Sue-Yi. Sue-Yi gave a cough and said in a deep voice, Leslie, I don't oppose you being a pirate, but if you want to be a pirate without any foundation, you're simply sending yourself to death. And then? What do you think? Sue-Yi laughed, revealing a smile that was filled with enticement. Actually, our new flyer guards are building an armed fleet. Are you interested? Chapter 684. The autumn breeze blew and there was a bit of coldness in the air. It entered the small room in the backyard of the Lampari Kingdom's royal palace through the window. Seveni was feeling a bit dizzy, but when this cold breeze hit her, her body trembled and she became much more spirited. If it was before, she would have felt that this breeze came at the right time, allowing her to be spirited and efficiently take care of government affairs. But this time she looked out the window and stared at the leaves falling in the breeze. After being in a daze for a bit, she thought for a bit before getting up to close the window. Coming back to the table, Seveni picked up a document that she had just put down. After looking over it, she revealed a heartfelt smile again. This was the Lampari Kingdom's financial report from last month. Through this report, it was clear that the Lampari Kingdom's financial income had increased by quite a bit. In just a single month, the Lampari Kingdom's financial income had already surpassed 500,000 gold coins. It had to be known, when Seveni's father Lampuri XIII and big brother Eric were on the throne, the Lampari Kingdom's financial income was only 1 million gold coins a year. On average, it was only 100,000 gold coins a month. Seveni had taken the throne for less than 2 years and the kingdom's financial income had increased by several times. With the current trend, when the financial income of this year was calculated, it was very likely that it would break 5 million gold coins. 70 knew that 5 million gold coins wasn't a large number for many large companies and large noble families. But for the Lampari kingdom that had always been poor, this was already a very great achievement. If the financial income of this year could surpass 5 million gold coins, the Lampari kingdom's finances would be much better than before and 70 would have money to do many things. The most obvious thing about this was the military budget. Before 70 took the throne, the Lampari kingdom's annual military expenditure was at most 300,000 gold coins. This was to deal with the threat of the Sack kingdom, so they had to squeeze out this much from their limited revenue. But now that the Lampari kingdom's revenue had increased, 70 had increased her military spending. Last year, the Lampari kingdom had invested more than 800,000 gold coins in the military. Less than 10 months had passed this year and the Lampuri kingdom had already invested over 1.5 million gold coins in military expenditure. By the end of the year, this amount would most likely exceed 2 million gold coins. This figure had even exceeded the annual revenue of the Lampari kingdom. With such a generous military budget, the Lampari kingdom's army quickly changed. Take 70's most important northern army as an example. Not only did each soldier have a complete set of weapons, they were also equipped with large amounts of military magic machines, allowing the Northern Army's battle strength to have a qualitative increase. Starting in the second half of last year, the Northern Army had been fighting back against the Sack Kingdom under 70's orders. Since the first move, in the past year, the Northern Army had attacked the border many times. They had fought the Hungry Wolf Regiment that guarded the border several times and had won each time. The Sack Kingdom's Hungry Wolf Regiment had over 50,000 elite soldiers, but in these battles, over 10,000 of them had been killed by the Northern Army. There was even a large group of elite soldiers under the Hungry Wolf Regiment that had been wiped out. Since the Lampari Kingdom was founded, the Sa-Air Kingdom had always had the advantage over the Lampari Kingdom. They had never been like this, being bullied by the Lampari Kingdom without being able to fight back at all. Because of the Northern Army's achievements, all the newspapers of the Lampari Kingdom had reported on them. For a while, the morale of the Lampari Kingdom's citizens was high. There were even people who shouted that they would march into the Sack Kingdom and defeat them, or even occupy the Sack Kingdom. But 70 was very clear that the Lampari Kingdom's army could keep winning was because of the large amount of military spending that increased the battle strength of the Northern Army. At the same time, there was another important reason, which was that they were equipped with large amounts of military magic machines, allowing the Northern Army to have an absolute advantage in terms of weapons. Although this made the Northern Army invincible on the battlefield, war wasn't limited to battles on the battlefield, there were many other factors that affected it. The most important thing that decided the final outcome of a war between two countries was the strength of both countries. Although the Lampari Kingdom had greatly increased the magic machine industry after 70 took the throne, gaining large amounts of benefits and increasing their national strength, the Lampari Kingdom had been weak for too long. But the Lampuri Kingdom had been weak for too long. It was impossible for them to suppress the Sack Kingdom in less than 2 years. 70 never thought that it would be this easy to defeat the Sack Kingdom. She was very clear that for the Lampari Kingdom, the most important thing was to maintain their rapid development and quickly accumulate their national strength. When the Lampari Kingdom became strong, it would be natural for them to defeat the Sack Kingdom. But to achieve this, there was a very important prerequisite, which was to have the full support of the new flyer. As the queen, as well as being the one who had the deepest contact with the new flyer, it could even be said that she was the person who understood the new flyer the most in the kingdom. 70 was more clear than anyone that the new flyer, or rather Sui, was hiding a terrifying power. As long as they had the full support of the new flyer, the Lampari Kingdom could smoothly develop their magic machine industry. They could use the magic machine industry to drive the kingdom's economy and quickly increase their national strength. But to obtain the new flyer, or more accurately, to obtain the full support of Sue, it wasn't that easy. What made 70 happy was that if Sue considered this problem from the perspective of the new flyer, there was no difference between the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom. They were all partners that could be cooperated with. Anyway, the Shinfei brand magic machines were welcomed everywhere. But Sue had always supported 70, he never considered cooperating with the Sac Kingdom. So to 70, other than being her personal friend, Sue could be considered the Lampari Kingdom's most important ally. Thinking of this, 70 rubbed her stomach and her expression became a bit strange. After being in a daze for a bit, she slowly shook her head and gave a sigh. When she was about to continue reading, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," 70 replied, and after a while, a maid came in. "Your Majesty, Lord Duke Festalin and Lord Count Samo are here." Seeing the familiar face of this maid, 70 couldn't help thinking of Betty and Carol who she had given to Sue, so she couldn't help being stunned. After pausing, she revealed a bitter smile and said to the maid, "Let them come in." The maid left with this order. Very soon, there were two different frequencies that came from outside the door, but they were both very powerful footsteps. When the door was opened, Duke Festalin, who had a high prestige in the Lampari Kingdom's army headquarters, known as the Lampari Eagle, and Samo Count, who had just returned to Anvilmar City from 70 City yesterday, came in together. The two respectfully gave a bow to 70 before Duke Festalin asked in a deep voice, "Your Majesty, may I ask why you specially summoned us?" Duke Festalin was already 67 this year, but he had a strong body and a red face. Whether it was his mind or his body, they were all at their peak. If it wasn't for his dazzling hair, people would have thought that he was around 40 this year. 70 stood up from her chair and walked around the table, inviting Duke Festalin and Samo Count to sit down on the sofa. Then she sat down in front of them and asked in a chatting manner, "Duke Festalin, you should be the one who understands the Lampari Kingdom the most in our Lampari Kingdom. Can you tell me, with our Lampari Kingdom's current strength, is it possible to defeat the Sac Kingdom?" "Impossible." Duke Festalin shook his head without hesitation. Duke Festalin shook his head without any hesitation. "Your Majesty, although we have a certain advantage on the battlefield, that is because of the military magic machines. If we lose this absolute advantage in equipment, our kingdom's army can only barely defend the border." "Then what if we can keep this advantage?" 70 asked. Samo Count on the side looked at 70 before quickly looking down, as if he didn't care about this problem. "Keep this advantage?" Duke Festalin knit his brows to think before shaking his head again. "It's still impossible. Your Majesty, the war between two countries can't be decided with just one or two battles. There are many times when there are over 100 or even over 1,000 battles before the final victory can be decided. And when it comes to the most important logistical problem of ensuring victory over 100 or even over 1,000 battles, our Lampari Kingdom is far from being able to compare to the Sac Kingdom." After pausing, Duke Festalin added, "Your Majesty, actually in the 2 years since you took the throne, you've already done very well. I think that as long as we keep going like this, we won't need to worry about the Sac Kingdom in a few years." Seeing the sincere expression on Duke Festalin's face, 70 revealed a faint smile and said with a nod, "That's great. Duke Festalin, since you also have this idea, then I can be assured. I hope that you can express this view to the public. What do you think?" Duke Festalin was surprised. After thinking for a bit, he immediately understood 70's meaning and said with a loud laugh, "All right. My old bones will always belong to the kingdom. As long as it's for the kingdom, I can do anything." 70 revealed a sweet smile to Duke Festalin before turning to Count Samo. Count Samo, do you have an accurate number of the magic machines that have been smuggled into the Sac Kingdom through 70 City in the past few years?" Count Samo knit his brows, not understanding why 70 would suddenly ask this question. Actually, when Lampuri 13th was still alive, large amounts of magic machines had already been smuggled into the Sac Kingdom through 70 City. Moreover, this was something that Su-Yi had personally obtained from Lampuri 13th, so it could be considered an official smuggling for the Lampari Kingdom. Whether it was King Eric or 70 taking the throne, this didn't change at all, as if they had tacitly agreed to this fact. After all, through this kind of smuggling, the Lampari Kingdom had obtained large amounts of profit from the Sac Kingdom, so no one would be idle enough to ban it. 70 was well aware of this, so she had even hinted to Count Samo in private that he could increase the scale. Now that she was suddenly asking this question, why was it? Count Samo thought for a bit before replying, "It's hard to obtain an accurate number. But according to private estimates, in just this year, the total amount of money involved in this kind of smuggling has already surpassed 2 million gold coins." 2 million gold coins. 70 knit her brows and shook her head. That isn't considered much. Count Samo and Duke Festalin were stunned. It was just smuggling and the amount involved was over 2 million gold coins. This wasn't considered much? Her Majesty. Just what did she want to do? Chapter 685. This is naked betrayal. Heinz slapped the Lampuri Weekly in his hand onto the table as he angrily roared out. Su-Yi looked at the large headline on the front page of the Lampuri Weekly and revealed a smile. Why do you say this? Is there a need to ask this? Heinz looked at Su-Yi in disbelief. Our new flyer supports the Lampari Kingdom, and now the Lampari Kingdom wants to cooperate with our enemy the Sac Kingdom. Isn't this betrayal? Moreover, this time they didn't just betray our new flyer, they also betrayed the citizens of the Lampari Kingdom. The Sac Kingdom is the Lampari Kingdom's enemy. Why would they cooperate with them at this time? Su-Yi shook his head with a faint smile. No, Heinz, your thoughts are too narrow. There are no eternal enemies between countries, it isn't strange for them to cooperate. Then again, you didn't clearly see what was going on with this piece of news, right? The Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom are only opening a free trade area, it's far from being a true cooperation. Moreover, based on what I know about the conditions of the negotiations, the Lampuri Kingdom's side actually gained a large advantage. Conditions? Heinz doubtfully looked at Su-Yi. After thinking about it, he couldn't help asking, "Hey, Su-Yi, are you clear on this matter?" "Of course." Su-Yi nodded with a faint smile. "Because I was the one who suggested this to 70, I was even the one who suggested this free trade area to her. Do you think I'm clear on this?" Heinz looked at Su-Yi in a daze. After a while, he said in a daze, "You're saying the cooperation with the Sac Kingdom was your idea? It's not wrong if you say it like this. But 70 felt that the Lampari Kingdom would gain many benefits from this, so she agreed to my idea. Speaking of which, for her to be able to complete this matter in such a short period of time, she's really outstanding." Heinz frowned and stared at Su-Yi for a while before slowly shaking his head. "Su-Yi, although you often do things that I don't understand, this time, isn't this too unreasonable? Not to mention the hatred between the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom, just based on the matter of the Sac Kingdom working with Duke Wine to attack our new flyer, we shouldn't discuss cooperation with the Sac Kingdom. Let me repeat, this is not a simple cooperation. If we really have to talk about it, this free trade zone is a place for our new flyer and the Lampari Kingdom to plunder the wealth of the Sac Kingdom. Do you understand?" Su-Yi said. Heinz shook his head. "I don't understand. This free trade zone is just a place for both sides to openly do business. The Sac Kingdom isn't a fool. How could they let us plunder their wealth? The situation is stronger than people. This isn't a problem that can be solved by being smart or not." Su-Yi gave a shrug as he spoke with a relaxed look. "Heinz, think about it. In this free trade zone between the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom, what kind of business is the easiest to do? Or I'll be more direct, what do you think the Sac Kingdom wants from the Lampari Kingdom, and what does the Lampari Kingdom need from the Sac Kingdom? Heinz knit his brows to think for a bit before his eyes suddenly lit up. I understand. The Sac Kingdom definitely has a special need for magic machines. Because the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom were enemies and blocked each other, the Sac Kingdom could only buy some magic machines through smuggling. Now that the free trade zone has been opened, the people in the Sac Kingdom who want to buy magic machines definitely can't wait. So to say, this free trade zone is used to dump magic machines into the Sac Kingdom. I'm certain that the people of the Sac Kingdom are no different from the people of the Lampari Kingdom and the Kingdom of Ruhr. They have long desired magic machines. Now that both sides are finally open to trade, the Sac Kingdom will definitely have a large demand. Sui said with a smile. It's just like how Banta City and the surrounding cities wanted the magic machines of our company. Heinz nodded before asking, but the people of the Sac Kingdom aren't stupid, they will definitely limit this, right? This is the meaning of opening this free trade zone. Sui laughed. Sui said with a smile, according to the agreement between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, in this free trade zone, the two countries are completely free to trade, so neither side can limit this at all. So even if the Sac Kingdom wants to limit the influx of magic machines, they can't do anything. This is very strange. Why would the Sac Kingdom agree to this condition? Heinz asked in a confused voice. The reason is very simple. First, the Lampari Kingdom's northern army has fought the Sac Kingdom's army many times and won all of them, so the Sac Kingdom is facing a large amount of pressure. Now that the Lampari Kingdom is suddenly willing to stop fighting with the Sac Kingdom and do business with both sides, of course the Sac Kingdom can't ask for anything more. That is also true. Second, the Sac Kingdom has been longing for various magic machines for a long time. Because of the Lampari Kingdom's blockade and our company's targeting, the Sac Kingdom has never been able to obtain the technology. Now that they can freely trade with the Lampari Kingdom, if they buy large amounts of magic machines from the Lampari Kingdom, perhaps they can make magic machines that belong to them. Perhaps they can even buy the technology from the Lampari Kingdom. That's impossible. The Lampuri Kingdom will definitely limit the technology. Heinz shook his head. Otherwise, if they teach the Sac Kingdom how to make their own magic machines, wouldn't they be raising a tiger? Sui shook his head. Although this wasn't wrong on the surface, Seveni had indeed made preparations for this and had made restrictions. But with the temptation of benefits, the Lampari Kingdom would definitely have some magic machine technology that would flow into the Sac Kingdom. This couldn't be completely restricted, so Sui proposed to Seveni to sell a small part of the magic machine technology to the Sac Kingdom. Of course, this magic machine technology was limited to household magic machines. It didn't touch on the production magic machines at all, so it was impossible for it to touch on the military magic machines. Although this could allow the Sac Kingdom to grasp some of the magic machine technology, and they could even develop their own technology, Sui wasn't worried about this. In the end, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had an absolute advantage when it came to magic machine technology, which was much stronger than the other companies. As long as the Frestec Chamber of Commerce controlled this technology, the Sac Kingdom wouldn't be able to touch it. Moreover, if it wasn't for giving the Sac Kingdom this bit of hope, they wouldn't have easily agreed to set up this free trade area with the Lampari Kingdom. As for the Lampari Kingdom and the new flyer, other than receiving large amounts of income from selling large amounts of magic machines to the Sac Kingdom, according to the agreement they signed, the Sac Kingdom had to export mineral resources to the Lampari Kingdom. Even in the agreement between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, the new flyer had obtained the rights to 2 mines near the Muerto Mountains in the Sac Kingdom. This was what Sui cared about the most. It was impossible to take control of the Sac Kingdom in a short period of time, so before this, using this method to obtain the mineral resources that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce needed was a very feasible method. But as for these considerations, Sue didn't need to explain it to Hines in detail. Starting last year, because Hines was getting older and because of his personality, he had gradually separated himself from the New Flyer's matters. Although he was still the vice chairman of the New Flyer, he didn't participate in any management or planning at all, so he was in a half-retired state. This time he suddenly came all the way from Banta City and showed his anger in front of Sue. Other than showing that he still had deep feelings for the New Flyer, it was also because of another matter. After discussing the free trade area with Sue, Hines suddenly fell silent. He looked at Sue, looking like he wanted to say something, but then hesitated. Sue revealed a faint smile. "What? We're old friends, is there anything you can't say in front of me? This company can be considered the two of us working together, so as long as it's related to the company, you don't have any scruples." An awkward look appeared on Hines's face. "You know." Sue gave a shrug. "We've known each other for this long. Do you think I don't understand you? If it wasn't for the matter with Alex, would you be this shy in front of me, like you're embarrassed?" Hines shook his head with a bitter smile. "I'm really embarrassed. Alex did those kinds of shameful things before and you're still willing to let him work in the company, so I'm already very apologetic. Now. All right, old friend, you don't need to say anything, I understand." Sue patted Hines's shoulder with a smile before turning to take a document from his desk and giving it to Hines. "Here, I've already arranged everything. I think Alex should be satisfied." Hines was stunned as he took the document and found that it was an appointment document. He opened it and saw that Alex was appointed as the captain of the New Flyer Transport Team's second team, mainly responsible for the transport of goods between the New Flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr. This was a position that was rich in benefit. Sue had given Alex this position. It could be said that he was already giving Alex preferential treatment. Hines closed the document and looked at Sue with excitement. Just as he was about to speak, Sue raised his hand and stopped him. "All right, let's not talk about formalities between us. Tell Alex to do a good job. As long as he performs well, I'll consider letting him work in the branch in Karaka. As for what happens after that, it depends on his specific performance." Hines nodded. Good. I'll definitely teach this kid a lesson. If he dares to make any mistakes, I'll break his legs myself." Sue smiled, thinking that Alex's wrongdoings in the past were enough to send him to prison for the rest of his life. If it wasn't for Hines's face, how could he have lived peacefully for the past few years and still have the hope of making a comeback? Chapter 686. After sending Hines off, Sue took care of several documents before turning to look out the window. After thinking for a bit, he drove the magic sedan away from the manor and headed to the shipyard. When he approached the shipyard, there was a deafening roar that came from the sea in the distance. Turning to look, he saw a pillar of water soaring into the sky that was over 10 meters tall. The sun was shining down from the sea to the west, and the water droplets fell down, creating splashes that filled the sky. The sunlight was filled with all sorts of colors, looking very beautiful. Sue narrowed his eyes to look at where the pillar of water had fallen before turning his head. His eyes fell onto a 30-meter-long, 5-6-meter-tall magic ship that was parked on the sea around 500 meters away. It was similar to the magic speedboat, but it was several times bigger and looked much thinner. When he looked over, there was a bright blue light that came from the magic ship. There was a small black dot with a flame-red glow that flew out, creating a long arc in the air before landing on the sea 500 meters away. Hong! Another loud sound rang out, and the sea surface that had just calmed down was once again blasted out with a 10-meter-tall water column. Huge ripples spread out from the point of explosion, causing a rotten wooden ship that was parked dozens of meters away to shake incessantly. Seeing that the broken wooden ship was still intact, Sui couldn't help shaking his head. To think that the target was still intact. This was too disappointing. Looking at the magic ship in the distance, Sui used his magic and disappeared into thin air. In the blink of an eye, he appeared on the deck of the magic ship that was over 1,000 meters away from the coast. Lumi on the deck was the first to react. She turned to see Sui appear out of thin air and immediately came forward with a happy smile like a little girl. "Hey Chairman, why are you free today?" "I had nothing to do, so I wanted to see how you were doing," Sui replied before greeting the others who reacted after hearing Lumi's greeting. "How is it? Is there any progress? I saw that the wooden ship that was used as a target was still fine." Hearing this, everyone, including Lumi, looked at each other with a trace of shame on their faces. The dwarf engineer Bordeaux, who was in charge of the magic cannon project, scratched his head and awkwardly said, "Sir Chairman, the progress isn't that good. We've already conducted 3 days of actual cannon fire testing. Up till now, apart from Captain Ferrio, no one else has hit a single shot." "Oh." Sui looked at the new flyer guard elven Captain Ferrio, who was standing firmly on the deck like a tree. "Ferrio, why are you the only one who can hit the target but the others can't?" Ferrio replied expressionlessly, "Because we elves are much more talented in shooting than them." "Really?" Sui glanced at the other people on the deck and found that there was another elf among them. He pointed at him and asked, "Then why didn't Ilden hit him?" Ferrio calmly looked at Ilden. "Ilden is a researcher, not a warrior. His talent has already been wasted." Ilden gave a soft cough with an awkward look. "All right, I admit that Ferrio's talent in shooting is better than the others, but what we need to know right now is what is going on with your talent. That is, what are you relying on to hit the target? What if the others can't hit it?" Sui asked. Ferrio slightly knit his brows and thought about it before replying, "I think the most important thing is that we elves have better eyesight than the other races. Secondly, because we elven warriors are proficient in bows and arrows, we are used to correcting the trajectory of the arrows. Actually, I didn't hit the first few shots, but after shooting a few times, I figured out the pattern and hit the next few shots." Sui immediately turned to Bordeaux and said with a frown, "Since Ferrio has figured out the pattern, why don't you ask him for advice and improve based on his experience?" Bordeaux helplessly spread his hands. "Sir Chairman, this is the innate talent of the elves, there is nothing that can replace it." "No, I don't think so." Sui shook his head. "The advantage of the elves' eyesight can be solved by adding improved telescopes to the magic cannon. As for Ferrio's summary of the pattern, did you forget what I said? The so-called pattern is actually the process of adjusting the data." Bordeaux's expression changed. "Sir Chairman, your meaning is to have us and Ferrio keep experimenting with the cannon and then calculate and adjust the data?" "Nonsense," Sui snappily said. "Could it be that you've been developing magic machines for this long and you still don't understand this?" Bordeaux rubbed his head and muttered, "This is our first time developing the magic cannon, we're not familiar with it yet." "Then get used to it as soon as possible." Sui glared at him. He left him and the other engineers and researchers working with Ferrio on the ship's magic cannon, while he pulled Lumi to the side. "Hey Lumi, how have you been in the shipyard during this time?" Sui asked. "Very good," Lumi replied with a grin. Lumi replied with a smile, "Everyone is very good to me and there are many people here who can talk to me about magic machines. I'm very happy." "Is that so? That's good." Sui nodded. "But you're the only halfling here. Do you still feel lonely?" A sad look appeared on Lumi's face as she lowered her head. "There are times when I do feel lonely, but I've been like this for close to 100 years, so I'm already used to it." Then she became spirited again. "But that's fine. After being in the shipyard for this long, I believe that we can make a magic ship that can easily sail the seas." When the time comes, as long as I drive the magic ship to another continent, I'll be able to see my clansmen. That'll take at least several years. Before this, have you thought about the possibility of seeing your clansmen ahead of time? Sui asked with a smile. What do you mean? Lumi, last time you said that the last time you heard about your clansmen was 2,000 years ago when they left signs. Is that right? It's like this, what about it? But I've found in the various documents I've read during this time that after the great halfling migration 2,000 years ago, there were scattered rumors about halflings. Although these are only rumors and there is no concrete evidence, after seeing you with my own eyes and discovering your existence, I thought of a possibility. What possibility? As if she could hear the hidden meaning in Suyi's words, Lumi's large eyes lit up. Look, you and your family didn't choose to leave signs and chose to stay. Then, other than your family, it's very likely that there are other halflings who chose to stay. So I feel that right now on signs, it's very likely that you're not the only halfling. There should be other clansmen. Lumi's eyes opened wide. Really? Then, Chairman, can you find them? I can't guarantee that this is true and I can't guarantee that I can find them, but I can work hard to find them. But before that, I need your approval and support. If I can find my clansmen, I'm willing to do anything. Lumi immediately replied in a loud voice. Very good. Sui gave a satisfied nod. Lumi, the method I want to use is a stupid method, which is to spread the news of you across signs. It's best if this news reaches the ears of other halflings, letting them know that you exist on the continent. If they want to find their clansmen, I think they will definitely come find you. Can you really spread this news across the continent? Lumi was a little doubtful. I can't guarantee other places, but at the very least, it won't be a problem in the surrounding countries. When New Flyer expands to other countries in the future, I can also spread this news to other countries. Sui said with certainty. But there will be a problem. What problem? That is, you will become a famous person. Lumi, you should know how rare halflings are on signs right now. If people know of your existence, it will definitely cause a big commotion. In order for the news to spread and let the other halflings know about it, you must show yourself in front of the public and reveal your identity. This will have a huge impact on your life. Do you think this will be a problem? Lumi's two delicate eyebrows deeply wrinkled. Although she didn't understand the troubles of being a famous person that Sui mentioned, but when she thought about how she would be treated as a rare object by many humans, she felt that this scene would definitely be troublesome. But when she thought about the possibility that Sui mentioned, she felt that this proposal was full of temptation. Sui quietly looked at Lumi and didn't urge her. In fact, he had spent a long time making this decision. The reason why he made this decision was actually out of caution. Although Lumi always said that as long as they went deep into the endless sea and found another continent, they would be able to find their clansmen. But even if the halflings had researched magic machines more than 2,000 years ago, it was far from the current level of technology of New Flyer. With the level of ships at that time, going deep into the endless sea was simply a matter of life and death. Looking at it from a more pessimistic point of view, it was very likely that the halflings had all died in the endless sea. Even if the halflings had found a new continent, it was unknown whether they would be able to settle down and survive on the new continent. After 2,000 years, anything could have happened. There was a great possibility that the halflings that left signs had completely disappeared, leaving only the halflings on signs in this world. If this was really the case, then it would be a tragedy for Lumi to not find anything on the ocean voyage that she had always longed for. So before this, Sui decided that it would be best to find the halflings on signs. This way, even if they couldn't find the halflings that had left signs, Lumi wouldn't be left alone and face the tragedy of her clan being exterminated. Through Lumi's performance in New Flyer, Sui was certain that the halflings had a special talent in magic machines. Lumi's joining had greatly increased the research and development of new Flyers magic machines. She had also inspired many new types of magic machines and improved the existing ones. If more halflings could join New Flyer, it would undoubtedly make New Flyer's magic machine research and development even more powerful. Of course, in private, Sue-E really felt that Lumi's loneliness was too pitiful. Lumi pondered for a long time before raising her head to look at Sue-E and slowly nodded. "Okay, President, let's do it. If you can find the other halflings, I will be very grateful." Sue-E smiled and patted Lumi's shoulder. "Don't worry, I believe you will not be lonely." Lumi gave a heavy N, and a smile appeared on her little face. Sue-E suddenly smiled. "Since you have agreed, then from tomorrow onwards, you will report to Steel every day, understand?" Lumi was stunned. "Why do I have to report to Steel?" "Because you will be a star in the future." Chapter 687. Riley was sitting at a table on the second floor of the restaurant. Looking at the bustling crowd on the street through the window, he couldn't help letting out a sigh. He had already been in Wimbledon City for an entire month and a half. According to the plan, he came to the Canla Empire this time to represent the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to discuss the matter of building a duchy for the Canla Empire. He and Chairman Cruz thought that this matter would be easy since Ambassador Hakkinen had come with him this time. With Ambassador Hakkinen's identity, he should be able to smoothly open a deal in Wimbledon City and quickly reach an agreement with the Canla Empire. However, reality was completely out of his expectations. Even if Ambassador Hakkinen was the younger brother of the Canla Empire's emperor, he didn't have any real power in the Canla Empire and his position wasn't as high as Riley imagined. Through the contact between Ambassador Hakkinen and the nobles in Wimbledon City, Riley could see that although these nobles would give Ambassador Hakkinen face to meet Riley, when it came to specific matters, they would use a very tactful tone and firmly reject him. It was very clear that these nobles with real power didn't put Ambassador Hakkinen in their eyes at all. Naturally, they wouldn't treat the matter of the road that he bragged so seriously about as a serious matter. There were even some nobles who looked at Riley with eyes filled with doubt, like they were treating him as a swindler. In the beginning, Ambassador Hakkinen was very active in bringing Riley to meet the nobles in Wimbledon City. He even brought him to several nobles' gatherings, allowing him to meet quite a few nobles. But because these nobles had the same attitude, Ambassador Hakkinen felt that it wasn't interesting, so he gradually stopped caring about this matter and his enthusiasm quickly faded. In the last half a month, Ambassador Hakkinen rarely met with Riley. Whenever Riley mentioned the matter of the road, he would always give a perfunctory laugh. At this point, Riley naturally knew that Chairman Cruz had bet on the wrong treasure. This Ambassador Hakkinen wasn't reliable at all. There were many times when Riley regretted it. If the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had entered the Canla Empire through official channels and discussed cooperation with the Canla Empire, the effect would have been much better than now. After all, the benefits of the roads were very obvious. As long as the Canla Empire paid attention to this, Riley was confident in convincing the Canla Empire to accept this new thing. However, Riley and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had left a bad impression on the nobles in Wimbledon, so it was very hard for them to cooperate. "Are we in too much of a rush?" Riley asked himself with a frown. Although the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could be considered a first-class company in the Lampari Kingdom and was famous in the surrounding countries because of their road and reinforced concrete building technology, the Lampari Kingdom and the surrounding countries were very small compared to the giant Canla Empire. The nobles in Wimbledon City had never heard of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, so naturally they didn't put Riley and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in their eyes. So Riley couldn't help thinking that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was in a rush to enter the Canla Empire, one of the two largest empires in the signs. Wasn't it a bit too hasty? In fact, based on the current development of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, It was better to continue to expand its market in some small countries and continue to strengthen its foundation. When the time was right, it would consider entering a super empire like the Canla Empire or the Malur Empire. President Cruz originally had this plan, but because the new flyer suddenly had the idea of entering the Canla Empire, President Cruz, who was Su Yi's loyal ally, also had this idea. But the reality was cruel. The Canla Empire didn't care about the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce at all. Every time Riley thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a trace of resentment towards Su Yi in his heart. If Su Yi didn't suddenly want to enter the Canla Empire, President Cruz wouldn't be so impulsive. But Riley was also very curious. He had known Su Yi for over 5 years, so he knew that Su Yi wasn't an impulsive person. He had a detailed plan for everything he did, and he had very strong foresight. No matter what he did, even if the effects were normal at first, it would have a very strong effect that would shock everyone. This time he decided to let the new flyer enter the Canla Empire. It definitely wasn't on a whim. But when he thought of this, Riley changed his mind and found another fact that he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He represented the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in Wimbledon City, but this wasn't related to the new flyer at all. Before Ambassador Hakkinen came back this time, he had specially gone to the new flyer to bring back a large amount of household magic machines, filling over 20 large transport magic cars. In less than 10 days after Ambassador Hakkinen and Riley came to Wimbledon City, these goods had all been snatched away. According to the numbers Ambassador Hakkinen had confided to Riley in private, he had earned a large profit of over 200,000 gold coins from these household magic machines. It had to be known, Ambassador Hakkinen had stayed in the Kingdom of Ruhr for an entire year and had earned less than 30,000 gold coins from various sources. This time he had just sold a batch of household magic machines from the new flyer, but he had earned such a terrifying profit. It was no wonder Ambassador Hakkinen had a smile that was like a flower blooming on his face whenever he mentioned the new flyer and Su Yi. But Wimbledon City was known as the #1 city in signs. According to the statistics, there were a shocking 1.5 million permanent residents, and adding in the floating population, there were at least 2 million. Although Ambassador Hakkinen had brought back a large amount of household magic machines that filled over 20 large transport magic cars, after selling them all, it was like throwing a stone into a large pond. There weren't any changes at all. Riley looked out the window and found that although Wimbledon City was ridiculously big, being more lively than any other city he had ever been to, if he seriously looked at it, it wasn't that different from many other cities in the signs. There were rows upon rows of small buildings made of large stones and narrow roads that crisscrossed each other. The people on the side of the road were waving the fans in their hands, trying to get rid of the last bit of heat from the late summer. Everything fell into Riley's eyes, and there was a kind of old feeling that filled his heart. In the beginning, he didn't understand why he would have this kind of strange feeling when he saw this lively scene. After looking at it for a while, he suddenly understood. The reason why he felt that Wimbledon City was old was because he kept comparing Wimbledon City to Banta City that he was most familiar with. In terms of scale, Banta City was clearly several times smaller than Wimbledon City. Moreover, because the new flyer and the other companies had moved out, the liveliness had greatly decreased and it wasn't as lively as before. But no matter when, Banta City would always be filled with vitality, and it was filled with a fresh feeling. If this feeling was described specifically, it would be the wide and flat roads of Banta City in the new city district that connected the various parts of Banta City. There were also the street lamps on the sides of the roads, as well as the public transport magic cars on the road. There were all kinds of new factories outside the new city district, the tall buildings that were several dozen meters tall, and the new household magic machines that appeared in each room. Even the people riding their bicycles on the roads were busy and leisurely. Everything showed that Banta City was different from the old cities of the signs. Yes, with the efforts of the new flyer and the subsequent city lords, the current Banta city had already become a new city. It was even different from the other cities of the continent in all aspects. Moreover, in these different places there was a message that was advanced. Or according to what Su-yi had said before, Banta City had already become a modern city and had already broken away from the old cities of the signs. Even compared to Wimbledon City, which was known as the biggest city of the signs, Riley's heart was filled with a sense of superiority. So what if it was big? Could it be more advanced than Banta City? On the continent, the only place that could compare to Banta City was Black Rice City on the Black Rice Wasteland and the New Flyers' main base in the Principality of Constantine. Thinking of this, Riley felt his mood suddenly become relaxed. These fellows from the Kanla Empire didn't know what was good for them, so he would just let them keep immersing themselves in this backwards mentality. The Kanla Empire didn't welcome the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, but there were many other countries that welcomed the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. This large and bloated empire would pay the price for its slowness sooner or later. Riley put down the wine cup that he had been holding for a while, and the anxiety and worry in his heart gradually disappeared. Turning to take a deep look at Wimbledon City outside the window, Riley made a decision in his heart. He would say goodbye to Ambassador Hakkinen tomorrow. When he went back and explained the situation of the Kanla Empire to Chairman Cruz, he believed that Sir Chairman would make the same decision. When Riley was about to call the waiter for the bill, there was a sound that came from the stairs to the second floor. After a while, there was a thin middle-aged man with an astute look that came up. The middle-aged man looked over the second floor of the restaurant and his eyes fell onto Riley before walking over. Riley was a bit surprised. After searching his mind, he confirmed that he didn't recognize this person. The middle-aged man walked in front of Riley's table and revealed a very polite smile to him. "Excuse me, are you the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's vice-chairman Riley from the Lampari Kingdom?" Riley was even more surprised. This middle-aged man had clearly come to find him after some investigation. "It's me. Is there something you need?" Riley carefully asked back. Receiving Riley's confirmation, the smile on the middle-aged man's face became even brighter. "Vice-Chairman Riley, I came looking for you this time because I want to ask you about paving roads." Riley's mind was suddenly shaken. After coming to Wimbledon City for so long, this was his first time hearing someone take the initiative to show interest in paving road. "Do you want to know more about Magic Machine Industry Empire?" Open WeChat now and click the plus sign at the top right. Add a public account and search for Kitty Ann's Hongwenwang. Follow the public account and you won't miss any updates. Chapter 688. 10 minutes later, Riley was in a new private room in the restaurant. After hearing the middle-aged man's self-introduction, he couldn't help but stare blankly. This middle-aged man who was interested in the roads wasn't some knowledgeable noble of the Kandra Empire, nor was he like Riley had guessed. He wasn't a representative of a company in the Kandra Empire who had received the news and smelled the benefits of the road. This guy wasn't from the Kanla Empire at all. Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom? Riley frowned and thought for a while, but he still couldn't remember where he had heard the name of this country. Logically speaking, this country's name was so special that it should have left an impression after hearing it once. It's normal that you don't have an impression. The middle-aged man cracked a smile, revealing his white teeth, because our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom has only been established for less than a year, and our kingdom is very small. Naturally, we wouldn't attract much attention, so it's normal that we don't have much fame on this continent. Established for less than a year? Riley looked at the middle-aged man who called himself Gaza with confusion. "Forgive me for being presumptuous, but your country's name, does it have any meaning?" Gaza laughed and said, "The name says it all. Our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom isn't a traditional kingdom, but rather a kingdom established by the alliance of 13 merchant guilds." Riley was dumbfounded. A kingdom established by the merchant guilds? How is that possible? Gaza waved his hand with a smile. Vice Chairman Riley, the so-called country is actually just a name for the territory, autonomy, and power that can be controlled. Right now, our 13 merchant guilds control enough land and have enough autonomy, so there's nothing wrong with calling ourselves a kingdom. Riley was stunned for a while, still unable to accept this new concept. You're formed by the alliance of 13 merchant guilds, so who's in charge? Our 13 merchant guilds have formed a joint conference to discuss the important food items in the kingdom and make decisions together. Although we'll nominate someone to be the chairman of the joint conference every once in a while, there's no one merchant guild or person that has absolute authority. Gaza smiled. Riley couldn't help but knock his head. After thinking for a while, he said, "Why do I feel that this model sounds familiar?" Of course it sounds familiar to you, because this model is actually somewhat similar to the current Congress of the Principality of Constantine. Riley was stunned. You know about the Congress of the Principality of Constantine? The Principality of Constantine was a small principality at the edge of the continent. Even though the new flyer had made the Principality of Constantine a lot of attention in the surrounding countries, it was still very inconspicuous in the signs, and not many people would pay attention to it. It was strange that Gaza even knew about the parliamentary system of the Principality of Constantine and showed a certain degree of understanding. Of course I know. Our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom's joint conference system is actually an adaptation of the Principality of Constantine's parliamentary system. Speaking of which, I have to express my heartfelt admiration for Chairman Su of the New Flyer. He was actually able to come up with a completely new political model. It's like opening a new door for us. If it wasn't for him, our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom might not even exist. Riley was even more confused when he saw Gaza's undisguised expression of admiration. According to Gaza's self-introduction, their Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom shared a border with the Kandla Empire. It was more than 5,000 kilometers away from the Principality of Constantine. Why would they know so much about the Principality of Constantine and the new flyer that was 5,000 kilometers away? This isn't strange. We're all merchants, and the way we obtain information is better than the average person. When we noticed the new flyer and started to collect information about the new flyer, we received information about the new flyer more frequently. Including our Huaiwe Chamber of Commerce, the 13 chambers of commerce all praise the new flyer. Because the appearance and development of the new flyer is simply the biggest miracle. I don't disagree with that. Riley nodded. The new flyer is indeed a living miracle. But Chairman Gaza, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with the matter of paving the road, right? Gaza smiled faintly. You're sorry, but I can't help myself when it comes to the new flyer. Cough. Alright, let's talk about the road. Vice Chairman Riley, your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce is without a doubt the only Chamber of Commerce that can completely pave the road. Am I right? Riley smiled and proudly said, That's right. Although there are many chambers of commerce trying to enter this field, apart from our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, no other chamber of commerce can pave the entire road. Not even the new flyer? Gaza asked with a smile. Riley's expression froze. Although the new flyer had never been in the field of road engineering, whether it was the cement and steel bars that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce used, as well as the various construction magic machines, they all came from the new flyer. With the terrifying research power of the new flyer, it only needed a bit of research and practice before it could pave the road by itself. Even if it's the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, they can't compare to our Omrit Chamber of Commerce in terms of experience. Riley said with a serious expression, So if you want to pave the road, our Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce is the only and best choice. Gaza nodded and didn't pursue this topic. He continued, Then Vice Chairman Riley, if I want your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to pave a road that is over 5,000 kilometers long, are you confident in completing it? What? Riley's eyes popped out. Over 5,000 kilometers? Are you joking? No, I'm not joking at all. Gaza's expression was serious. It didn't seem like he was joking at all. From the Principality of Constantine to our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom, it's close to 5,000 kilometers on the map. If you want to pave a road to connect them, of course it will be over 5,000 kilometers. Riley looked at Gaza in a daze for a bit. Although you're right, why do you want to pave a road like this? Do you know how terrifying it is to pave a road like this? Of course I know. Gaza revealed a smile, but his expression was still firm. Not only do I know, the 13 companies of our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom all know. But in order to connect the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom to the Principality of Constantine, this is the best method. Riley was a bit speechless. Gaza was right, but this idea was just too shocking. A road that was over 5,000 kilometers long, how terrifying was that? It had to be known that even the Lampari Kingdom, which had the most roads, only had a mileage of 50,000 kilometers. The first road built by the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom had to be over 5,000 kilometers long. This was just too exaggerated. Why do you want to pave a road to the Principality of Constantine? This was the question that Riley was most confused about. Because the new flyer is in the Principality of Constantine. Gaza's answer was short but powerful. Riley was speechless again. After all this time, the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom's goal in building a road like this was just to make it easier to pave a road to the new flyer. Is the new flyer really that attractive to you? Riley couldn't help but ask. Gaza glanced at Riley and smiled. Vice President Riley, if you can't see how terrifying the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce is, then I can only express my regret. Riley was speechless again. It had been over 5 years since he first came into contact with the new flyer. Now, he was being looked down on for not understanding the new flyer. This was simply comical. After thinking about it, Riley gave up on arguing with Gaza. Instead, he calculated in his mind and frowned. That's not right, President Gaza. Even if the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom wants to build a road like this, it's not realistic. Oh? Why is that? It's very simple. It's because according to the location of the kingdom you described, there isn't a place that borders the Stantine Duchy at all. There is the giant Kandra Empire and the Rudsun Kingdom in between. Because they wanted to build a road on the entire signs, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had a deep understanding of the geography of the entire continent. How could a vice president like Riley not know about this problem? No, there is a road that connects the two. Gaza rummaged through his backpack and took out a rolled-up parchment. When he opened it, it was a map of the signs continent. Look here. Gaza's finger pointed at the bottom left corner of the map and the bottom right corner of the Kingdom of Ruhr. Then, he pointed westward and drew a crooked line near the endless sea. It was almost completely along the coastline, all the way through the huge Kanla Empire, and finally stopped at the bottom right corner of the Kanla Empire. This is where the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom is located. Look, there is a long and narrow area between here and here that the Kanla Empire doesn't need. We can use this area to build a road. Riley's eyes swept over this line, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching. President Gaza, forgive me for being blunt, but this idea is crazy. If my knowledge of geography is correct, the line you drew is completely on the mountain beside the coast. In other words, if we want to build a road like this, we have to dig through the mountain. Then cut it open, Jia Shah said with a smile. You're crazy. Riley finally couldn't help but yell. Do you know how much it'll cost to open a road from the mountain? Let me tell you, a normal road costs less than 5,000 gold coins per kilometer, but if you want to build a road, it'll cost more than 10,000 gold coins per kilometer, or even more. If we want to build a road of 5,000 kilometers, we'll need 50 million gold coins. Gaza smiled and pulled Riley to sit down. Don't worry, I'm not crazy. Of course, I have to admit that this plan is crazy. But Vice President Riley, I didn't say when the road would be built, right? Riley was startled. Then what do you mean? Gaza's smile revealed a trace of slyness. Actually, I just want to express our Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom's sincerity to New Flyer. Riley was stunned. He couldn't understand why this President Gaza, or rather the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom he represented, would place such importance on New Flyer. It was to the point of madness. Was New Flyer really that important? Do you want to know more about Magic Industry Empire? Open WeChat now and click the plus sign on the top right corner. Add a public account and search for Kitty-Ann's Hongwenwang. Follow the public account and you won't miss any updates. Chapter 689. Building a road with a total mileage of more than 5,000 kilometers, and almost half of it had to be dug through the mountains, was an extremely difficult task even on Earth with its highly advanced technology. Not to mention the difficulty of building the road, just the most basic problem, capital investment, was an almost impossible problem to solve. Riley's estimate of 50 million gold coins was already quite cautious. In fact, if they really wanted to build such a road, the total investment might even exceed 100 million gold coins. In the entire signs, only the Kandla Empire and the Mala Empire could afford such a huge investment. Apart from them, it was impossible for any other country or chamber of commerce to independently bear such an astonishing investment. The Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom couldn't, and neither could the New Flyer. However, when President Cruz told Sue-E the news that Riley sent back from the Kandla Empire, Sue-E unexpectedly showed a strong interest in this crazy plan. Seeing Sue-E carefully sizing up the huge and very detailed map of signs hanging on the wall of the manor's reception room, President Cruz didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Hey Sue-E, you're not really planning to build such a road, are you?" "Why not?" Sue-E turned his head. His eyes were bright, and his expression revealed a look of interest. "Don't you think that if such a road is successfully built, it's equivalent to completely connecting the Principality of Constantine and the country to the east of Signs? You see, if this road is built, we can go to the east of the continent without passing through the Kandla Empire. We can even bypass the Kandla Empire and build another road to the north. That way, the entire continent can be connected." President Cruz smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I say, Sue-E, although you've always had a lot of crazy ideas, this idea is too unrealistic. It would cost at least 100 million gold coins to build such a road. Can you afford it? I can guarantee that the Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom won't be able to take out that much money." "Didn't President Gaza say that he didn't say when the road would be fixed? I am of the same opinion as him. This road needed to be repaired, but because the investment was too large, it was impossible to repair it in a short period of time. Of course, such a huge project couldn't be completed in a short period of time. Cruz, how long do you think it would take for the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to fix this project?" President Cruz frowned and looked at the map. He thought for a moment and said, "It will take at least 10 years. And that's under the condition that we're trying our best to finish the project. Well, let's tentatively fix this road in 20 years. That way, the amount of money we need to invest every year won't be too shocking to the point that we can't afford it," Sue said. President Cruz couldn't help but sneer. "You make it sound like you can afford 5 million gold coins a year. Don't forget, your New Flyer still needs money to do other things." "I didn't say that we would start building it now, did I?" Sue-E smiled faintly. "The Nozdormu Business Union Kingdom can't rush this matter, and I don't need to rush at all, so this is only a plan. Of course, in order to express our sincerity, I have decided to build a coastal road from the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr first. What do you think? President Cruz was stunned by Su Yi's jumpy thoughts. A coastal road from the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr? President Cruz carefully looked at the map and slowly nodded. That's a good idea. Right now, there is only one road from the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr, so it's not that convenient. If we build another road in the south, we can better connect the Principality of Constantine to the Kingdom of Ruhr. To put it bluntly, I hope that we can rely on this road to promote the development of the south of the Principality. Sui said. How much do you think this road will cost? President Cruz pondered for a moment and shook his head. I can't give you an accurate number without an on-site inspection. I can only say that it will cost a lot more than the current Stru road. Okay, then let's confirm it. I hope you can come up with a suitable plan soon. Are you sure you want to build such a road? President Cruz asked. I'm sure. Good, then I will accept this project on behalf of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. President Cruz nodded and suddenly changed the topic. But Sui, can you agree to a request of mine? Speak. In fact, I have already mentioned this request many times. Can you transfer the cement manufacturing technology to our Chamber of Commerce? President Cruz's eyes were filled with expectation. Our Chamber of Commerce's projects are now far beyond the Lampari Kingdom and the surrounding countries. The furthest project is more than 2,000 kilometers away from here. However, we have to transport cement from your Frestec Chamber of Commerce each time, so the cost of this is just too shocking. So, okay. President Cruz looked at Sui in amazement. You agree? Yes, I agree. Sui smiled and nodded. I can transfer the cement manufacturing technology to you, but you have to strictly abide by the standards set by our Chamber of Commerce. President Cruz's face was filled with disbelief. He had already mentioned this request to Sui no less than 10 times. However, he had always been rejected by Sui. Why did he agree so readily this time? Because the time is right. Sui replied with a smile. President Cruz couldn't help but frown. What do you mean the time is right? What is it specifically? However, Sui didn't explain much, and President Cruz didn't ask more. Anyway, with Sui's consistent style of doing things, since he agreed, he would never go back on his word. After thinking about it, President Cruz couldn't help but smile. The main business of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was road paving and various construction projects. No matter which project it would use a lot of cement. Before this, the cement used by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was exclusively provided by New Flyer. Although New Flyer had always had a good relationship with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and Sui and President Cruz had a good relationship, for such an important thing to be in the hands of New Flyer, it made President Cruz feel that his life was in someone else's hands, so he felt a bit uneasy. Now that Sui agreed to transfer the cement manufacturing technology to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, he let out a sigh of relief. The two chatted for a bit and quickly reached a preliminary agreement. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would buy the cement manufacturing technology from New Flyer for 1 million gold coins. Moreover, New Flyer would send corresponding personnel to help the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce build 3 cement processing plants in the 3 countries. At the same time, they would provide a series of production magic machines for the cement. To put it simply, New Flyer would help the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce independently manufacture cement. After discussing this, President Cruz asked Sui with a bit of doubt, "Hey, Sui, why did you agree to this? Although we spent 1 million gold coins, you should know that our company spends 1.5 million gold coins each year to buy cement from your company. You earn at least 500,000 gold coins from this. Now that you're giving us this technology, it's impossible for you to earn that much money from us in the future. Could it be? You want to give up on the cement business?" You think that only your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce uses cement? Sui looked at President Cruz and said with a smile, even if your Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce is our company's biggest customer, there are many other companies and people who buy cement from us. Even if we lose our biggest customer, we can still earn quite a bit from cement. But I still feel that this is very strange. You're simply breaking your own hands and feet. It's not that serious. Sui couldn't help smiling. Our company's main business is in the magic machine business. Cement is just a side product. A side product can let your company earn this much in a year. President Cruz couldn't help muttering. Sui revealed a smile. He had developed many side products while researching magic machines, so the benefits were quite large. Cement was just one of them. Of course, for the modern industry, cement was an essential building material, occupying a very important position. Sui transferring the technology to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce was just to rely on the power of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to expand this scale. It didn't mean that he was planning on giving it up. After chatting with President Cruz for a bit, the two left Sui's office and came to the New Flyer Magic Car Factory. This time President Cruz came to New Flyer. His goal on the surface was to order a large transport magic car from New Flyer. As the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's business expanded to more distant places, the demand for transport gradually increased. Before, they could rely on the Fersen Transport Chamber of Commerce's Fersen Horse Carriage Company to transport materials, but now they couldn't handle it. So President Cruz decided to buy a transport fleet that belonged to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. First, he needed to buy enough transport magic cars. Because the automatic production magic machines were being used in the various factories of New Flyer, the New Flyer had already gotten rid of the negative effects of the strike and layoff. Their production efficiency was even higher than before and their production capacity had increased. Because there were too many demands, the New Flyer's production capacity couldn't meet all of them, but there was enough for Sui to arrange. The transport magic car was one of the most popular magic machines in the surrounding countries. If it was before, even if the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce wanted one, they would have to wait at least half a year for the first batch. But now Sui could confidently tell President Cruz that he could provide the first batch of 10 large transport magic cars to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in just 3 months. After receiving Sui's confirmation, President Cruz was satisfied as he left the transport magic car factory. But when he walked out the door, he suddenly saw a strange-looking magic car in the distance. It looked like a magic armored vehicle, but there was a thick tube coming out of it as it slowly drove over. President Cruz was stunned. What kind of strange thing was this? Do you want to know more about the exciting developments of the magic machine industry empire? Open WeChat now and click the plus sign at the top right. Add a public account to your friends and search for Kitty Ann's Hongwenwang. Follow the public account and you won't miss any updates. 51 Red. Chapter 690. Chairman Cruz looked at Sui with a doubtful gaze, but Sui acted like he didn't see the strange magic car at all. He waved his hand and calmly said, "Let's go." Seeing that Sui didn't explain at all, Chairman Cruz quickly thought of something. The surprised look on his face turned into a smile, and like he didn't see anything, he walked out of the New Flyer Industrial District with Sui with a smile. Watching Chairman Cruz get into the magic sedan and disappear into the distance, the smile on Sui's face disappeared. He turned to look in the direction of the magic car factory and knit his brows. After a while, Sui walked to the New Flyer's magic car test base that was to the northwest of the magic car factory. When he walked in, he saw several magic cars that were the same as the one Chairman Cruz had seen driving around the base. Seeing these clumsy-looking magic cars, Sui couldn't help giving a bitter laugh as he shook his head. If possible, he really wanted to call these strange-looking magic cars magic tank. But other than the steel plates that were thicker than normal magic cars and the tires being specially made, there was only one more magic cannon installed than normal magic cars. It wasn't bad to call it a magic cannon car, but to call it a magic tank, that was just a fool's dream. Sue walked over to the researchers of the Magic Machine Development Center, who were observing the operation of the magic cannon cars while recording the data. He asked the chief of the Magic Cannon Car research team, the human engineer Toldo, in a deep voice, "Why did I see a magic cannon car outside just now?" Toldo and the other researchers had already noticed Sue-Yi's arrival. They had been excitedly preparing to report to Sue-Yi, but when they heard this question, they couldn't help being surprised. After a while, Toldo finally reacted and carefully replied, "Sir Chairman, according to the data, we think that the magic cannon cars are ready to be used. So we've sent a magic cannon car out of the base to test it on the complicated road. Do you think there's a problem with this? This fast?" Sue-Yi was a bit surprised. Hasn't this project been established for less than 2 months, and they're already testing the magic cannon cars? Seeing that Sue-Yi wasn't unhappy, Toldo and the other researchers looked at each other. After letting out a sigh of relief, they revealed smiles at the same time. "That's right, Sir Chairman. Actually, to say something arrogant, we don't think that developing the magic cannon cars is that difficult. Because before this, we already have a very successful foundation in developing the magic cannon, so we just need to consider how to perfectly fuse the magic cannon cars and the magic cannon cars together. This work is just a bit, to be honest, it isn't that hard." "Is that so?" Sue-Yi couldn't help smiling. Sue-Yi couldn't help laughing. "This means that you think this project is too simple." "Alright, when the magic cannon cars are developed, I'll give you even harder projects so you don't need to worry." The faces of Toldo and the other researchers immediately turned ashen, their expressions ugly. But under their ugly looks, one could see that there was excitement and expectation in their eyes. Sue-Yi was very satisfied with their reactions. He turned to look at the magic cannon cars on the field with a smile before asking Toldo, "Since you feel that this research isn't that hard, then tell me, is there any hope of mass production this year?" Toldo was silent for a bit before shaking his head. "I'm afraid we can't do that. Sir Chairman, your request for the magic cannon cars is to be able to operate normally under any bad conditions, and the most important thing is to be able to display enough power. Although we are confident in achieving these 2 requests, this is based on large amounts of experiment. There are only 2 months left this year, so I don't think it's enough." Sue-Yi nodded and praised, "Very good, being careful is a good thing. My request for any research work is to be as perfect as possible, so I won't rush you. But I hope that you can finish your research as soon as possible and put the magic cannon cars into mass production as soon as possible." "Alright." Toldo gave a strong nod and agreed. Sue-Yi looked around and after thinking for a bit, he continued, "I plan to build a large experimental base in the mountains to the north, which will be used for military magic machine research. When the time comes, your research team will also move there." "Really?" Toldo and the other researchers revealed looks of joy. This magic car experimental base was in the New Flyer Industrial District. Although it was very big, there were many restrictions, so it wasn't convenient for them to do many experiments. If they could build another experimental base far away from the crowd, their research speed would greatly increase. Don't be happy too early. It'll take at least half a year to build the experimental base. When the time comes, your research on the magic cannon cars will be finished." Sue-Yi's words made the joy on their faces fade quite a bit, but his next words made them excited again. "Of course, the magic cannon cars are only the first step of your research. You will continue this research in the future because my goal is to develop a magic tank that can be invincible on the battlefield." After leaving the magic car experimental base, Sue-Yi thought about it before getting in his magic sedan and heading to the shipyard by the sea. Before approaching the shipyard, He found that the beach and the open space outside the shipyard were filled with people wearing all kinds of clothes. It was clear that they weren't new flyer employees. Su Yi's magic sedan came from afar and was immediately noticed by those with sharp eyes. It was unknown who shouted, but the crowd came and surrounded Su Yi's magic sedan. Is this considered reaping what I sowed? Su Yi gave a bitter laugh and helplessly opened the door to get out. Chairman Su, is Lumi here right now? That's right, is Lumi in the shipyard right now? Chairman Su, if Lumi is here right now, can you ask her to come out and meet us? That's right, ask Lumi to come out and let us see her. We don't have any other intentions, we just want to see her. That's right, we just want to see Lumi. We want to see Lumi. Chairman Su, please agree to us. Su Yi raised his hands and the surrounding crowd fell silent as they all looked at Su Yi. Looking around and seeing countless expectant gazes, Su Yi said with a faint smile, "Everyone likes Lumi this much. I think that Lumi will be very happy. Alright, since everyone has such a strong request, I'll talk to Lumi and see if she's willing to come out and meet you. What do you think?" Hearing that Su Yi actually agreed to everyone's request, the crowd broke out in a deafening cheer. The people in front of Su Yi's magic car all moved back, opening a path for Su Yi to enter the shipyard. Su Yi waved his hand at everyone with a smile before getting into the magic sedan and driving into the shipyard. When he got out of the car, Lumi appeared in front of Su Yi with a pout on her face. "Chairman, why did you agree to them again? How many times have I said it? I came here to study the magic boats that can sail the seas. I'm not here to be looked at like a monkey by all these people." Seeing the dissatisfied Lumi, Su Yi laughed. When Agnes created a stir in Banda City, she also felt like she was being looked at like a monkey by all these people. These foreign races had a similar impression of the humans' attitude of watching a show. Su Yi took out a letter from his chest and gave it to her. "Come, after reading this letter, I'm certain that you won't be so against the people outside." Lumi doubtfully took the letter and after reading it, the dissatisfaction on her face turned into pleasant surprise. After a while, she looked up with a look of disbelief as she loudly asked Su Yi, "Chairman, is this true? You really found news about my clansmen? Could this be a lie?" Su Yi gave a shrug. This information was obtained by Hannes through the Lampuri Weekly. "Before I personally see your clansmen, I can't be certain if it's true or not." Lumi gave an O sound before looking back at the letter in her hand and muttering, "Whether it's true or not, it's already very good to receive news about my clansmen. After all these years, this is the first time I've received this kind of news." Actually, Su Yi was also very surprised. When he proposed to Lumi to spread the news of her existence, he didn't have that much hope. But he never would have thought that in less than 2 months after this news was spread, Hannes would receive news about the appearance of the halfling race and personally write a letter for Chairman Cruz to bring over. This news about the appearance of the halfling race happened in the Drake Duchy's northeast neighbor, the Fok Kingdom. Lampuri Weekly had set up a branch in the Fok Kingdom, so they received this news. "Chairman, I want to go to the Fok Kingdom," Lumi suddenly said in a firm voice. "I want to go there to find my clansmen." Su Yi was surprised before slightly knitting his brows and slowly shaking his head. "No, Lumi, I understand your feelings, but your decision isn't good. We can't be certain if this news is true or not, so we can't be certain if your clansmen exist. It's even possible that this news was deliberately released by someone, and it's a trap for you." Lumi was stunned. "A trap for me? Why?" Su Yi pointed at the gate of the shipyard. "Don't you know how rare the halfling race is on the continent? Just based on the fact that you are a halfling, it's enough for someone to set a trap for you." Lumi was silent. After a while, she looked up at Su Yi with a firm expression. "No, even if it is a trap, I have to take a look. I can't let go of any chance of meeting my clansmen." Sui had to place his hands on Lumi's shoulders and look into her eyes as he said with a serious look, "Lumi, calm down. You don't need to personally go to confirm if this news is true or not, there are many other methods. I've already considered it. You can take out a token representing your halfling race, and I'll find someone to bring it to the Fok Kingdom, trying to contact the halfling race that might exist. If this is true, I think that the halfling will come into contact with you. If it's false, you won't be in any danger. Do you understand what I mean?" Lumi thought for a while, then nodded reluctantly. "All right. But Chairman, if there is any news about my clansmen, you have to inform me immediately." "No problem." Sui patted her shoulder with a smile and pointed outside the gate. "Before that, you should go out and deal with your fans." Lumi's little face suddenly wrinkled. After hesitating for a while, she walked out with a bitter expression. Moments later, thunderous cheers resounded from outside the shipyard, shaking the entire shipyard. Sui couldn't help shaking his head with a bitter smile. If this happened more often, perhaps the new flyer would become an entertainment company. Do you want to know more about Magic Industry Empire? Open WeChat now and click on the plus sign at the top right. Add a public account to your friends and search for Kitty Ann's Hongwenwang. Follow the public account and you won't miss any new updates. Dread. Chapter 691. The weather in the middle of November was still warm in the Principality of Constantine, so people could still wander around in their clothes. But in the Muerto Mountains between the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom, it was already the middle of winter. 3 days ago, heavy snow had fallen from the sky, and it had continued on and off for 3 whole days. Only this morning did the sun show its face from behind the thick clouds, and the sky cleared up again. When the sun shined on the ground, Tuklin town that was located to the north of the Muerto Mountains, in the Sac Kingdom, less than 30 kilometers from the border between the two countries, immediately became lively again after several days of silence. Motorcades came from the north of the Sac Kingdom, and at the same time, there were motorcades that came from the south of the Muerto Mountains, crossing even further distances from the Lampari Kingdom. Countless people with the accents of the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom gathered in this small town, instantly making it lively. Since 4 months ago, the Lampari Kingdom and the Sac Kingdom reached an agreement, establishing Tuklin Town as a free trade zone between the two countries. In these 4 months, Tuklin Town had always been lively. It was like it had suddenly turned from a normal small town into a large and prosperous city. Countless merchants from the Sac Kingdom and the Lampari Kingdom came here with large amounts of goods to trade, which led to the development of the small town. In just over 4 months, more than 20 restaurants and inns had sprung up in the town like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. At the same time, the people around the town had obtained a large number of jobs and even opportunities to make a fortune. Even the normal farmers in the surrounding villages quickly changed their lives because they could provide fresh vegetables to the restaurants in the town. So whether it was the people of Tuklin Town or the Sac Kingdom farmers in the surrounding villages, they were all very grateful to the agreement between the two countries. If it wasn't for the free trade zone being set up here, how could they have this kind of comfortable life? It had to be known, because Tuklin Town was close to the Muerto Mountains. It had suffered from war and could be considered one of the poorest small towns in the Sac Kingdom. However, with how lively Tuklin Town was, in the eyes of some people, it only made them angry. The Hungry Wolf Army's Chalon Linear was one of them. Every time he was dragged to Tuklin Town by the Chief of Staff, Ivy Joao, he was furious and even felt humiliated. It seemed to him that the more prosperous Tuklin was, the greater his humiliation, because the free trade area that this small town represented was built on a foundation that filled him with grief and indignation. It was that the Sac Kingdom had been forced to accept the Lampari Kingdom's conditions to open this free trade area. The reason why they were forced was very simple. It was because the Sac Kingdom couldn't resist the Lampari Kingdom's attacks on the battlefield. To be specific, the Tanlang regiment he led could not stop the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army. To challenge Linear, who had given his entire life to the Hungry Wolf Corps, this was the greatest humiliation. In the several hundred years before this, the Sac Kingdom had the absolute advantage against the Lampari Kingdom, but during the time he was the commander of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, the Hungry Wolf Regiment had been defeated by the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army. At the end of last year and the beginning of this year, the Hungry Wolf Regiment had been completely defeated by the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army, not being able to resist at all. They even allowed the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army to enter the Sac Kingdom's territory, even threatening Star Yuan City that was over 100 kilometers away from the Muerto Mountains. In the 600 years of the Sac Kingdom, this was the first time this had happened. After this matter, the Sac Kingdom was shocked and the Hungry Wolf Regiment became the target of everyone's disdain. They felt that it was because the Hungry Wolf Regiment wasn't strong enough, so he as the commander should commit suicide to apologize. However, when the Sac Kingdom sent several other regiments to fight the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army, they were all defeated without exception. So the people of the Sac Kingdom finally understood that it wasn't that the Hungry Wolf Regiment and Commander Linear were incompetent, rather it was that the Lampari Kingdom's northern battlefront army was too strong. For a while, the entire Sac Kingdom was filled with panic. Everyone was worried that if the Lampari Kingdom wanted to invade the Sac Kingdom with their powerful army, would the Sac Kingdom be able to resist them? It was a good thing that at this crucial moment, the Lampari Kingdom took the initiative to propose peace talks. Although it was very humiliating to be forced into peace talks, it was great news for the Sac Kingdom. Not to mention that the Lampari Kingdom didn't make any excessive demands in this peace talk, rather they just wanted the two countries to set up a free trade area. Other than normal trade between the two countries, there was also a demand for the Sac Kingdom's mineral resources. This demand wasn't a direct demand, rather the Lampari Kingdom would use gold coins to buy it. Although the price wasn't that high, it could be considered a very normal transaction. So the Sac Kingdom didn't hesitate at all and directly agreed to the Lampari Kingdom's conditions. Those idiots in the kingdom's parliament, they are simply digging their own graves. Linear glared at the lively scene in Tuklin town as he angrily roared out in a low voice. Could it be that those idiots can't see that the Lampari Kingdom wants to rely on those useless magic machines to steal the wealth and resources of our kingdom? Ivy Joao on the side looked at Linear and said with a faint smile, "Linear, I understand your anger and hatred towards the Lampari Kingdom, but if you say that the magic machines are useless, you are just deceiving yourself. Isn't that the case?" Linear raised his voice. Linear raised his voice a bit. "These damn magic machines can't be eaten or drunk, what are they bought for?" Ivy Joao shook his head. He thought that because of Linear's hatred towards the Lampari Kingdom, he had a deep prejudice against magic machines. "Alright, even if you say that the household magic machines are useless, do you dare say that the military magic machines are useless? Don't forget, the reason why we were defeated so many times with the Northern Army was because of those damn military magic machines." Linear's expression froze and after a while, he angrily spat on the snow to the side. "Pay. If it wasn't for those damn military magic machines, how could the Northern Army beat us? Although I don't think that the quality of the Northern Army is worse than our Hungry Wolf Regiment, if it wasn't for those military magic machines, they wouldn't have been our match." Joao gave a sigh. "But the problem is that they do have those damn military magic machines, and there are more and more of them, becoming stronger and stronger. Conversely, we still don't have anything. It's all the damn Magic Academy's fault. They said 3 years ago that they would develop the same powerful military magic machines, but what have they developed now? Other than the outdated magic trebuchets that were eliminated by the Lampari Kingdom's Northern Army, they haven't done anything in the past 3 years. You can't blame the Magic Academy since this thing is very complicated and can't be developed in a short period of time, Joao said with a sigh. Then how can the new flyer develop a new magic machine every once in a while? Could it be that the new flyer is stronger than all the magicians in our kingdom? Linear asked back. Joao was speechless. After a while, he said with a bitter smile, "Perhaps it's because the new flyer's chairman Su-E is a genius." Linear cursed a few times before his expression suddenly changed. He lowered his voice and asked, "Speaking of this, didn't the Army Headquarters Staff Office say that the operation was a success a long time ago? Why hasn't there been any news yet?" Joao looked around before replying in a low voice. "According to the information I've gathered from the staff office, the staff office has already been trusted. The people sent by the General Staff Office have basically gained their trust. I believe that valuable information will be sent back soon." Okay. Linear nodded. "If we can have the same military magic machines as the Lampari Kingdom, I will definitely beat up those brats in the Northern Army and vent my anger." Joao gave a slight nod before pointing forward, "But before that, let's study what we should buy first. My family wants me to buy a Shinfei brand magic air conditioner and my family's kid wants me to buy a Shinfei brand bicycle. What about you?" Linear looked at the flag with half a wing that was being blown by the cold wind, and a deep disgust appeared on his face. He gave a cold snort. "I'm going to drink, come find me when you're done buying." Seeing Linear lead several guards into a newly opened restaurant, Joao revealed a smile. He walked over to the store with the new flyer flag and the other famous magic machine companies of the Lampari Kingdom. After entering the store, he found that it was already filled with people. Looking around, Joao found a few familiar faces. It was clear that they were the same as Joao. They had been encouraged by their families to come here to buy some useful household magic machines. Since the free trade zone between the two countries opened, the Lampari Kingdom's household magic machines had entered the Sac Kingdom in large amounts. Now everyone in the Sac Kingdom recognized the convenience these household magic machines brought. In just a few months, household magic machines had become a trend in the Sac Kingdom. If you didn't have a single household magic machine at home, you would be the target of everyone's ridicule. Even a frontline soldier like Joao couldn't resist the request of his family and was forced to buy military magic machines. Actually, Joao didn't hate household magic machines like Linear. Rather, he felt that these things were very easy to use and could bring great convenience to his life. But he didn't have time to come here before, so now that he had a mission, he decided to buy some back. After walking around the store, Joao didn't think too much and directly went to the Shinfei brand counter to choose the household magic machine he wanted to buy. Whether it was the Lampari Kingdom's advertising or the public's word of mouth, it all showed that the Shinfei brand household magic machines were the best. There was nothing that could compare. As the chief of staff of the Hungry Wolf Regiment, Joao naturally had the financial ability to buy the best. After deciding what he wanted to buy, Joao casually walked to a small counter in the store. The products sold at this counter came from the Drake Duchy, and the waiter in charge of receiving customers was also someone from the Drake Duchy. Joao looked at the counter for a bit before casually saying, "It's a pity that summer is already over and I've missed the chance to buy a magic fan." The waiter narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, "This customer, summer will always come, so buying a magic fan ahead of time isn't a bad choice." Joao looked up and met the waiter's eyes, as a knowing smile appeared on their faces. "Do you want to know more about the magic machine industry empire? Open WeChat now and click the plus sign on the top right. Add a public account and search for Kitty Ann's Hongwenwang. Follow the public account and you won't miss any updates. Book 2002. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.